connecting to Twitch for the stream. So let me just take a second here and make sure that we're actually live and I've got quality options. We are live and I do have quality options. So I wanted to try and start like right at the dot on 7 o'clock, but there were a couple things that got in the way. The reason I'm mentioning that is not to give yet another apology for sort of stumbling in terms of start times and that. This is definitely within my my usual window. But I'll probably repeat this as well. I'm really swamped in terms of some stuff that I need to do tonight. I have a deadline for something sort of tomorrow afternoon, but the fact of the matter is for myself, and there's a lot of very good reasons for why I want to do it this way. I absolutely need to get that thing done tonight. And it's just because of its importance and the likelihood for me to stumble if I try and do it sort of at the last minute. But I also need to do a bunch of prep for that ahead of time. So I will confess, I was actually debating on canceling the stream tonight, but I'm sort of thinking for that thing I said is like, well, it's going to be a hard night, but I do that because, it needs to be done and, it's best to just do it. And I think that's a good mentality to also put towards streaming, particularly Phantom Brigade, which is a game that Brace Yourself Games very kindly provided me a key for promotional purposes for. Yes, this is also the disclosure part. And so when I can, it is my real hope to be able to, what's the best way to put this? Like, I really do want to try and respect the key that I've been given by being consistent in terms of doing broadcasts and that. And I don't think anybody's going to say that I haven't given my all in terms of covering the games and things like that. But there's a side of me that just kind of wants to, if I can, make sure I kind of go that extra mile and sort of say, yes, things are tough, but I am also the sort of person who will still rise to the occasion when things are tough. So it's partly just a pride thing, I guess. But with that, so all of that is just a very long way of saying that I may be a little more strict on my end time, and that might mean that the stream is sort of shorter than 3 hours, just by virtue of the fact that I was a little later in starting. I'll try and do my best to sort of give a nice, nice proper length stream. I'm not going to arbitrarily cut it off from some point, but if it seems like I'm going to have the normal way that Phantom Brigade works, and this is just because the game is just so fun, what I tend to find is I'll say, well, we'll just do one more battle. And what tends to happen is like there'll maybe be 10 minutes left in the broadcast, but the battle winds up being like half an hour long or an hour long. And as a consequence, the stream winds up being like a 4-hour broadcast. I really can't afford to have that happen tonight. So I don't want to spend too much more time, talking about how it's going to be so short, but I just kind of want to give a bit of a warning, excuse me, that I did want to, I just did sort of want to flag that I am streaming tonight, but it may be a little bit of a disappointment in terms of length. Which is a little bit of a shame because obviously it's our time to try something new here. But I can assure you there will definitely be more Phantom Brigade in the future. So we'll do our best. And I may have to repeat that a couple of times just based on who's in the chat and when. The game's loading right now. This is the first time I've loaded up experimental, even for myself. So unacceptable. You want 24-hour streams or nothing? Yeah, 24-hour stream of the stuff that I need to get done tonight. Oh, that'll be exciting. Very good to see you, Olaf. Thank you for stopping by. So I may need to point OBS to the new program. Phantom Brigade's definitely loading. It definitely asked me for the internet access. Hey, it all works. Okay, so experimental branch, as you can see in the top left-hand corner. Welcome to the Brigade. We're excited to have you experience Phantom Brigade and have your help shaping development during its early access period. During the course of development, some aspects of the game might feel rough, sparse, or buggy. Every month we'll release a major update, which will include bug fixes, new features, and quality of life improvements for players. We appreciate your patience and feedback throughout this process as we work to deliver the most important features and fixes. From the main menu, check out the early access roadmap to see what's coming next for Phantom Brigade. Reach out to us via the Brace Yourself Games Discord community or read the latest patch notes for the latest changes and known issues. Thank you for joining us on the journey. We look forward to making Phantom Brigade better and better with your help. Nailed it! A very small percentage of people may experience seizures when exposed to certain visual images, including flashing lights or visual patterns. These seizures may have a variety of symptoms, including lightheadedness, altered vision, eye or face twitching, jerking or shaking of arms or legs, disorientation, confusion, or momentary loss of awareness. Immediately stop playing and consult a doctor if you experience any of these symptoms. If you or any of your relatives have a history of seizures or epilepsy, it is recommended you consult a doctor before playing. All right. So, just a quick reminder about the decision that I made yesterday. This was, or not, last week. This is something kind of done in consultation with chat. I've wanted to do the experimental branch for Phantom Brigade for a while, but the catch is that I also sort of feel this need to, like, the one thing I'm never quite sure about, how do I put it, about things like experimental branches, because it's also possible that it may show the game in a light that doesn't it doesn't really properly inform somebody who's thinking about the game or wanting to thinking about picking it up or just kind of wanting to get an idea of it. So I'm pretty tolerant for certain types of bugs. In fact, for some games I would go so far as to say my playstyle still reflects kind of old versions of games that I played in an early access period, and I just kind of built the habit, so it may not even be an optimal way of playing anymore. So this could even be like if something provokes a crash, I will sometimes just work around the thing that does the crash because I enjoy playing the game, and I don't really want to do that. Or, alternatively, I know something might provoke a crash, but I'm like, okay, well, it's just a game. Like, I don't get to keep the money when I'm done. So, let's give it a try, and if I have to restart from zero... Hey, Dan Van Dam! My goodness, thank you very much for the host! Now, I know Dan Van Dam from the GOG community, so I'm a little... I'll confess, I'm a little surprised to see you hosting from for Phantom Brigade, just because I think that's currently an Epic-only game. Are you interested in Phantom Brigade? Because we're actually trying out, I was just explaining, we're going to be starting from the very beginning on the experimental branch. So if anybody's curious about what's going on with Phantom Brigade, you've picked a wonderful time to stop by. And let me actually take the opportunity to get a quick shout out. I am going to get a little intro out of the way. I take a long time to get started, but... what were you playing tonight? Or this afternoon? Anyways, I also know Dan Van Dam through Kilgore Trout, but of course that has the GOG connection as well. So, but in any case, yeah, I actually now, because probably this is greatly inflated my numbers, I should mention that this is a copy of Phantom Brigade I was given from Brace Yourself Games for promotional purposes. So, Zelda Dragon, hello to you. Thanks for stopping by. And also for those of you who were watching Dan Van Dam and don't want to see this strange camless person, I completely understand. I love it if I get a chance to entertain you, but I do appreciate it when people show support to a broadcaster and give someone a chance. But I also know I can't quite match the talent of some of the people who host me, Dan Van Dam included. So If it's only a brief moment with us, I still appreciate that you came along with the raid. But anyways, Phantom Brigade is a really interesting, I'd say it's a cinematic turn-based tactics game. You can see a little bit of XCOM in this, you can see a little bit of Into the Breach, and you can see a little bit of Frozen Synapse inside of this. Thank you very much. Well, it doesn't mean that I'm not talented. It's just if you're doing an ordinal ranking, you know, I'm not gonna put myself in the exalted slots. So I'm just trying to manage expectations. Fortunately, we've got a really cool soundtrack and a very compelling set of visuals to sort of bolster myself. But in any case, the I believe this was originally developed by a company called Tetragon Works, which was acquired by Brace Yourself Games, and they're all sort of they're all working together now. So you'll also see some names appear on Industries of Titan and Cadence of Hyrule, which are some other Brace Yourself games. And I mean, this is something straight up my alley. You know, you all know probably that I really like XCOM. But it's, when I say the cinematic side, this game has got just a completely amazing sense of style. So, like, this is a very cool opening video. But, like, as far as an indie game is concerned, like, this thing, it just blows me away in terms of how it looks when you're playing it. Like, you definitely get the kind of feeling that you're seeing inside the game here. So the one thing I wanted to do, the new update that came in from from last week, actually last Tuesday, they recommended that you start a new campaign. And I've been wanting to do the experimental branch for a while, with the possible concern that, again, if it's an experimental branch and I either wind up with something crashing or something that's a little unpleasant, I don't mind playing stuff like that, but I know it can be off-putting for some people who are maybe trying to decide if they want to buy a game or something like that. So I'm doing this with a slight sense of caution that I hope the game doesn't seem too frustrating. But I don't know. I've also been really enjoying the game during early access, so I don't think experimental is going to be too crazy. But in any case, these are everything. This is everything that they're going to be working on between now and release. No official release date yet, but I believe they intend to put it on the other storefronts once it's out of early access. But for the meantime, we are going to enjoy a brand new game. We are going to do the tutorial. I think there's sometimes a benefit when you're in an early access game to actually go from the very beginning. One, because some people may not be familiar with the game, and so being able to sort of introduce the concepts is very helpful. But in addition, it's actually kind of nice to be able to maybe get an idea if the developers have changed something. I know the tutorial is going to be revised later, so I think it'll be the same one as before. But it's sometimes helpful to just see, you know, what do the developers think the game is about? You know, I played in a very early version. You know, there wasn't melee in the first one, I think, that I'd seen. There's melee here now. And so there might be some things about how the game works that are put inside the tutorial that don't necessarily hold from my original familiarity. Plus, we get to hear some voice acting, so. Okay, well, that was error message popping up at the start, so this is auspicious.
Sorry to strap you in so early today, Lieutenant, but we'll have to cut our checks short. We've lost the town comms last night, and I'd like you to take a look at the tower we have half a click north from here.
Got a tutorial. We are now starting a short tutorial that will show you the main mechanics and controls of the game. To begin, follow the contextual hints on the screen. The main controls that you need to remember now are left mouse click to confirm, right mouse click to cancel, and WASD to move the camera. I also found out that with a gamepad, at least... Oh, maybe not anymore. I thought with a gamepad you'd be able to control the camera a bit. Oh, yep, you can. So this is a nice little thing. If you want to get some like really nice sort of cinematic moves with something a little more fluid. Of course, as I'm bouncing around the movements. If you want to embrace your inner digital cinematographer, you can definitely take any gamepad that you're hooked into and make the angles work. Okay, left click on the unit to open the action list, click the movement action button, and click the destination to create the planned action. Click the button to put the plan into action.
Hey, Lieutenant. They're still installing the prototype in my rig, so don't hog all the action till I catch up.
Yes, it's not the most exciting test run of our new tech, but we've got people here counting on us, so let's move out.
By the way, you can rotate the camera horizontally by pressing Q or E, or pitch it by pressing R or F. You can also do the same by holding the middle mouse button.
Whoa, what happened here? Probably just some damn rowdy civilians. HQ, this is Special Field Ops Team Bravo requesting immediate repair detail, over.
This is HQ. Negative, Commander. Repair detail busy until further notice. Stand by.
What could they be busy with? Well, let's see if we can't do a little more recon. Boot up that shiny new device Ops installed in your rig and we'll see what she's made of.
By the way, if anybody, I think I might have asked this the last time I heard the tutorial, but on the odd chance anybody at Brace Yourself gets to hear this particular bit, is that Adelaide who's HQ? Maybe that's supposed to be a secret, but Adelaide is the, I believe, creative lead. I can't remember. I should do the credits, but activate the system prototype.
Theoretically, this prototype can predict a short time into the future, allowing us an incredible advantage on the battlefield. This could change war forever, but as long as we have it, our citizens will be safe. I'll move to scout one side of the tower. If she's warmed up, you should be able to see where I'm moving and flank the opposite side.
This new window you see in the corner of the screen is called the timeline. It is akin to a video progress bar. You can move your mouse over it and see what will happen at any moment in time. In a moment here, the commander would plan a move and we'll see how it works in practice. You can also hover over paths in the world. Yeah, so this is an example of how it works. So this is a little bit where the game becomes a bit like Into the Breach. So what we've got here, this is a character. Normally you would be the one deciding how this character moves, but as I sort of scrub the playhead, you can sort of see where this enemy is going to be moving. This is sort of an alternate history style game, and in this particular case, in this world or timeline, an artificial intelligence has been developed that, or maybe it's I think that at some point it was referred to as an AI. Maybe it's different now. But the device that they're referring to will give you absolute certainty in terms of the actions that the enemy is going to take. So where this becomes useful, and we'll see this in a second, is the ability to see what the enemy is going to do and your ability to intervene. So it's actually better to say that the device will show you the intentions of the enemy because, of course, your actions might prevent them from doing that. If you do something, let's say, to block someone from moving, then they're not going to wind up in the place that the prototype had predicted. But, of course, that's hopefully what you had intended to have happen, and you're able to play around with it. So this is where the game becomes quite a bit like Into the Breach, because Into the Breach obviously gives you perfect knowledge of what the enemy is going to do. The only difference here is that in the case of Into the Breach, it's going to do, each unit gets sort of a specific ordering, whereas in the case of Phantom Brigade, everybody sort of takes their turn simultaneously. So if you have two characters who are firing weapons at each other, the bullets are going to be flying at the same time, whereas in Into the Breach, if you have a unit perform an attack, and they're earlier in the turn order, that may mean that the other unit just simply doesn't take its action at all. So, in any case, I should hover here through time. That's fine. I think it just wants me to move, though, right? Yeah. Planned actions can be cancelled with 2 right clicks. I don't think it's going to force me to do that, though.
Is this some surprise war games maneuver? HQ, we have an unmarked non-cooperative tank at location 2SBR15. Confirm intent, over. HQ, confirm, over. Lieutenant, I'm getting a heat signature from the tank's power core. Check your prototype. If that tank even twitches, cripple it.
So now we get to see the enemy action. We can scrub over. We can see that it's going to be firing on our ally. And the tutorial for the first little bit definitely has very clear ideas of where you're supposed to go. This is actually pretty good advice as well. It's a good idea to keep moving. Everything in this game is simulated, so, or at least that's my understanding. If it isn't, they do a really good job of faking it. So essentially all the individual sort of projectiles are modeled. Some of them will hit, some of them won't. But if the ones that don't hit are going to keep moving through the environment, and you can potentially, have them hit, somebody behind. You can have them destroy a building. You will see the buildings collapse. It's really impressive. We won't necessarily see that in the tutorial here, but there's definitely going to be a couple of battles where we sort of go Team America on everything. One bit of information, which I don't know if the tutorial conveys or not, but there are optimal distances in terms of firing. We'll have a chance to fire on the... Actually, maybe we can do that now? Yep, so it's click on the target you want to attack. Attacks can be repositioned on the timeline, allowing you to fine-tune the timing. And it looks like it doesn't let me attack more than once. So again, we have foreknowledge that it's going to be attacking my ally, so we'll start off with the one. But when it comes to sort of optimal attack ranges, you can sort of see here that there's this solid colored area in terms of my line of sight, and then of course it starts sort of it starts having more gaps. This is because there are optimal ranges for different weapons. In this case, my assault rifle is 33 to 54 meters. In the case of the tank, you can actually mouse over it and see what they're working with. In this case, they're using an autocannon, which has got an optimal range of 12 to 24 meters. So even though they are attacking my ally, and my ally is kind of showing their back, so that's generally not a good situation to be in for the mech. It is firing in such a way that it's unlikely most of the projectiles are going to hit. But we can theorize about it, or we can just see it happen.
Good read on the tank. I'm hit, but just a scratch.
I'm pretty sure
I'm picking up multiple targets from the north. My God, this can't be right. Take cover! Take cover!
2 new enemy contacts on the field, so the game wants us to move. Now, the strategy that the game is suggesting here is one that I've used a lot. The inclusion of missiles definitely changed the reality of this, but using the terrain to your advantage is a major factor in terms of being able to take on some of the tougher encounters. So this is one thing I like about the tutorial. This is definitely from a very early stage in the game, but I actually think the tactics that it suggests are ones that sort of hold up in the main game. Eventually, you'd maybe want to start doing certain things like taking advantage of, your knowledge of what the enemy's going to be doing, in the sense of like causing friendly fire incidents and that. So if I was controlling this guy, I'd maybe try and get him to move really far to the left so that the tank number 1 would be hitting tank number 2. But at the very least, you can prevent damage just by putting yourself between the enemy and some cover.
This is no war game.
Commander, multiple contacts just appeared on our forward slope. Weapons ready.
Treat us hostile. This is not a drill. Intercept and protect the town. We're on our way.
Roger, heading out.
HQ, come in. HQ, do you read? Pinned down by 2 treads. Returning fire. Got one. Shit, a walker. Lieutenant, get the...
Commander? Commander! Taking defensive position. The commander's down, but we have to focus. We have citizens to protect. There's a walker and multiple treads on approach. Remember, if things go to hell, set self-destruct and punch out, so they can't salvage our prototype. Whatever happens, let's meet at evac point R09.
I'll confess, I still find in that opening cinematic, I suspect that's probably a bug. I do find the profanity in the cutscene a little jarring because the game isn't very sweary. But I mean, on the other hand, like the game definitely is about some fairly serious and mature stuff. Like you effectively, this tutorial is the sort of the opening stages of an invasion that happens in this game. Obviously, this has gained a tremendous amount of significance today, in a way that I don't think anybody working on it necessarily could have anticipated. So, but like to a certain extent, the experience of the game is largely a lot of these narrative events that are written in text, and usually there isn't a lot of profanity. Sometimes you'll run into the dog. So even though you are in the middle of a war and you've got this very hostile occupying force sort of doing some really awful things to the population, because so much of it is in text, and generally you kind of need to think about it in your mind. It does actually still kind of surprise me a little bit to hear someone swear in the opening cinematic. I realize I sound very precious sort of saying this sort of stuff, but it's always a little surprising in this cinematic, just because I'm I don't know, like I it's one of the few times that it comes up in the game. And I also think there may have been just a different creative decision that got made. It might have been that they ultimately changed the tone. But this is going to be a good example of what the main game's a little bit more like in terms of combat. So it looks like in this case here, the invading force is actually targeting some specific buildings. So the game did sort of say we need to protect the buildings. So I'm going to try and play like a nice guy who is not going to use civilian buildings as cover. But on the other hand, I'm also not going to throw away perfectly good pilots. So one thing that I can do here, I can throw up my shield to get in close on the enemy. I also kind of want to make sure that that shield is up for the time that it needs to be up so that I can fire. Okay, that's good. And that's not going to do anything for me. Now, these two this one is a cannon, so this is long range. This is an auto cannon, which is short range. So I am actually setting myself up for some potential hurt with this unit here. What I can try and do with my ally, which has a little bit of a longer range with the assault rifle, I might want to try and sort of move in and put some hurt on this tank before it can sort of cause me some difficulty. The other alternative is I run around the side like I've been doing here, and I get in close to deal with these tanks. It looks like, so it's two cannons and an autocannon. I kind of want to give myself some distance from this guy. So actually, one thing I could maybe try and do is run around the side, focus down this guy first, and then take out this unit with the autocannon. Let's see how that works. Okay, so we move up. Just at the edge of their range, it looks like. Okay, so we're not hit by any of the enemy attacks. Now, this is only a 52% chance to hit. Like, obviously, I'm not banking too much on this working, but one thing that's kind of nice about the assault rifle is that you can generally get away with a few more sort of Hail Mary kind of shots. The other thing you may notice down here, more actions have been unlocked, and remember, you can repeat an action multiple times. One thing you may notice down here is the heat. So I always like to think in mech games that heat is kind of like mana. It's the thing that stops you from just constantly casting fireballs all the time. I realize heat is a perfectly understandable real-world concept that does not require me to make an analogy to magic, but there you have it. But basically, in this case here, I'm trying to make the most. So I'm basically trying to maximize the amount of damage I do without going above my heat register. It can be a little hard to keep track of what's going on when you're crossing over two turns, but in this particular case here, it's just right now. I'm not. My heat isn't decreasing. In this case here, this sort of represents wasted time as far as attacks are concerned. I can move and that's about it. So generally, even if it's not a high chance to hit, I kind of want to get at least one shot out in order to be able to say, okay, at the very least, you know, we've contributed something, and we're getting our, you know, we're getting our heat gauge back down. So we'll see how the turn turns out. So shield should go up in a second. Okay, so you'll notice that the shotgun actually hit the tank behind as well, which is pretty good. Commander, the base is ready to pick the squad up. We're intercepting the enemy garrison comms here. They have no objectives left to defend and plan to flee the area. You can finish them off. Oop, I missed the last little bit of text. Okay, actually, it looks like I miscalculated as far as the heat. I do have a little bit over the edge. So first thing I want to do here is take a look at how the timeline is working and see who they're attacking. It actually looks like everybody really wants to target this particular unit, which I can sometimes use to my advantage in terms of causing some friendly fire. The other thing I want to keep in mind is what kind of attacks are coming after me. So if they're things like autocannons, I want to get in close. Oh, sorry, I want to move far away. If they're things like cannons, I actually want to move. I want to get in. I want to get in close just to sort of minimize the potential damage. So this seems really counterintuitive, right? They're coming, you know, they're already attacking me. But in this case here, I'm sort of minimizing the damage that I will take simply by putting them in a more inconvenient position. There's some other things that I can try to do as well in the sense of trying to. I'm trying to think of the right way to put this. Like, I can try and interrupt certain types of attacks. So, for instance, if I wasn't firing my shotgun, I would potentially be able. Oh, actually, I can probably knock this guy down. So. This unit has got it's a light, so you can kind of tell that by, actually, maybe it's a medium, actually, it's because it's got 2 bars. But by my weight, I'm already heavier. Now, it says 1 here, so I might be misinterpreting the line. But what I can do is I can throw out my shield. And sort of just crash into the unit. And actually what I'm going to do here, just to make sure that I don't take too much damage, sort of set myself up to sort of take out the remaining attacks on my shield. Okay, so we finished the shotgun on the unit, we bang him with the shield, we move back. So this unit should still be sitting down somewhere in here. So my shield is sort of facing this side. So everybody's piling on. We kind of knew that was going to happen. I'm still going to keep the shield up, even though that's a little bit of a waste of the turn. And at the end, I'm going to blast the shotgun. Okay. So this is kind of helpful here simply because I know there's going to be an attack that happens. Yeah, so there's not a lot I can do about this attack unless, like, one of my mechs are going to get hit by the weapons. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep this unit in the action. I'm going to make sure that they don't generate too much heat, but I'm going to start focusing on kind of what I consider to be the dangerous units. So I may or may not take this unit out, but this kind of gives me a level of certainty. And let's see if I can get a secondary attack on something a little bit closer, not without overheating. So we'll just move the turn forward like this, and let's watch the chaos. Yeah, so it caused him to crash. Okay. So most important question is, who did we take out? We got 1 smoking Hulk. This one's fresh. This one's fresh. This tank is on its last legs. Looks like this unit is actually ejecting. They took too much damage. And this unit's crashing right until the very end. Okay, so this is helpful. In this case here, it's just a question of who do I want to mop up, and a lot of this is going to basically come down to who's attacking and what's the best way for me to avoid the sorts of damage. So one lesson that we learned, of course, is that when we're dealing with cannon, if we can get in a little bit, closer, we'll have an easier time with the enemy. So I want to attack as early as I can on the enemy unit. This is just following the logic of trying to keep that cooldown going as long as possible. There's also the secondary consideration of what's in an optimal range. You'll notice that there's that targeting circle in the area. So I tend to try and follow that. And if I can get away with a short range attack, so much the better. But yeah, it looks like I'm giving up too much in terms of heat. So I think 2 attacks on the furthest... Basically, this is the tank that's furthest away, and so its cannon is going to be the most threatening to us here. This... So the enemy mech is moving away, this one's got an autocannon, and this one's got a cannon, and it's struggling to sort of move through the area. So in this case here, I think it makes the most sense for me to just follow up with another shotgun attack on this unit. Although maybe I want to... yeah, because I'm going to need the heat reduction anyway. Let's throw up the shield. Okay, so that basically lasts the duration of the... So this is going to seem a little weird here. The reason why I'm doing it this way is I'm actually trying to avoid... I'm trying to avoid getting hit by this tank. It seems like it's probably a better option for me to be here, though. Well, yeah, I'm still in a good shot to be. I'm still in a good place to get shot. So, okay. So what I'm going to do here, we do another shotgun on this unit. Then we turn around and defend against this unit on the chance that our assault rifle doesn't clean it up. Looks like I bumped into this unit, so just as well that we defended ourselves. Okay. So my best option here is to avoid... You can see that our left arm is already kind of damaged. So what I want to do here is really just set myself up in a good position to attack the units that are most inconvenient to me. So yeah, we didn't do that much damage to this guy because we weren't able to get the shot off. So start there. I feel like I should be contributing more this turn. Let's see if we can get away with a third attack. Nope. Okay, so we are defending ourselves. Looks like my shield's actually already taken a bit of a beating, so I shouldn't be counting on that for too much longer. But nobody else is attacking this unit, so I'm going to get a little cleanup. Done. I want to try and make sure that I keep the enemy in sort of an optimal range. Okay, yeah, they are still going to be attacking me. Okay, well, there's another approach that I can take to this. I feel like I'm putting undue emphasis on this particular tank. Yeah, so it's kind of a last minute Okay, so in this case, I'm holding position so I can have a nice steady attack on this unit. But what I want to do from that moment is actually start moving in a little bit closer to the action. The ideal would be to position myself somewhere here. Let's see whether or not we can pull that off. No, because then I crash into the enemy unit. So central is a tough spot to be in because it means it means I can be attacked by everyone, but it also means that I get to attack everyone. So we'll see whether or not it turns out. Okay, so that thing's crashing at the very least. Okay, that unit's taken out, so the shotgun's not going to mean a whole lot. So this unit isn't out of action. It just means that it's not going to be attacking for a little while. This unit's going to be attacking me. Okay, well this is a bit of a no-brainer here. So this has got 130 armor left on it. It does 93 damage in a full volley, so I can afford one more run with the shield. This is a little reckless, standing in front of the tank's path, but the tank is a fairly light unit, so... I suppose it's also worth considering that so it's slightly better for me to move away. This unit's not going to be moving anywhere else, so... I can keep them in my sights. And then we'll move in to support my ally. But I'm not actually going to do an attack. Victory! Squad extracted early, all objectives complete. So I've mentioned this before, the cinematic kind of suggests to me that in future it may be that you have to deal with an overwhelming force, and that'll be how they introduce the extraction mechanic. Because it does seem a little strange that we wipe out the invading force and then we sort of make our last minute escape. But I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I talked about terrain destruction, or I talked about the building destruction, but I didn't really get a chance to show it. But in this case here, you can sort of see these were, I believe most of these were attacks directed towards the buildings. But in this case, like, it's not just... so this definitely looks all bombed out, but I've definitely seen some moments where you will actually see buildings collapse as well, particularly because I tend to use them for cover so much. In any case, we'll have a chance to see that as part of the main game.
Lost. So much devastation. This isn't what I wanted for you. I thought you'd be born in a time of peace and prosperity, of love among people. But the world is so different now. Tanks patrol the streets. Neighbors turn on neighbors. People disappear in the night. They keep telling us this is temporary, that we'll come to love our new way of life. Somehow, I don't believe them. I want to give you the freedom I once had. But how can we few do that alone? We can't keep hope alive for much longer. We pray that someone anyone will answer our call.
So I'm definitely interested in seeing how many more cinematics will be in the game after sort of version 1.0. But it does a good job of sort of establishing some of the themes and particularly some of the... I mean, in the case of this game, the way that you will liberate a province is essentially by sort of raising its hopes. So all of that's sort of in there in the in that opening cinematic. The other thing is that with the latest update, this latest update has brought in the second of the big overworld changes, and so there is. It used to sort of be that you would go and you'd hit a certain number of settlements that you liberated. What happens now is essentially you try to work to get a region towards a certain threshold, at which point sort of you kind of begin this uprising in this occupied region. And what you need to do is you need to go and support the different areas. Either they're going to try and take something or they're being attacked. And so it is really neat, especially over the last few updates, which have been focused on sort of the overworld. The tactical game is definitely in a really good spot now. You're definitely kind of getting that idea of being this insurgency, sort of running around, trying to, not to get noticed, trying to hit the enemy where they're at their weakest. And what I particularly like about this new update in the campaign mode, which we'll be seeing, I don't know if it'll be in this region, but it'll likely be in the second region. This fact that you're sort of participating in something larger than yourself, that the Phantom Brigade isn't just kind of going around being doers of good deeds and, you help out the farmers. And then on top of that, they are the only ones responsible for liberating the region, but rather you are letting a population sort of take back what's theirs. And what you're doing is you're providing that necessary support, that you've not only just emboldened the populace, but at those critical moments, you're providing that edge that they need to be able to take out the occupation forces. So I've not actually done one of those battles yet, so I'm looking forward to it. Welcome to Phantom Brigade Early Access. Pressing Shift Tab will open the reporter window. Let us know if you spot any bugs or if you have any other feedback. Navigation bar allows you to switch between the pause menu, the overworld map, and all the base views. Apparently the pause menu is so important, I got 2 of them. The world information bar allows you to change game speed, displays territory information. You can also view your resources and the current time here. There. This widget presents information about the objects in the world, such as your mobile base. As you discover more objects on the map, you'll be able to read more information here, and it will show more as you get closer and gain further intel. So a mobile base, a heavily modified walker service vehicle from the old mining operations, restored and fitted with every bit of cloaking equipment the Resistance could find. It is indispensable in our operations. It enables the Brigade to strike with surgical precision and escape before the enemy can respond. For those of you who are fond of XCOM 2, this is definitely one of those things. It's very similar to the change that they made that I thought made XCOM 2 a much more interesting game. Not that the original XCOM was bad, or not that XCOM Enemy Unknown was bad, but I definitely liked what they did with the mobile base in that game. Your base of operations is a giant vehicle capable of storing and servicing an entire squad of mechs. With it at your disposal, the Brigade can avoid the enemy and strike at opportune moments. At the bottom of the screen, you'll find a list of actions available to your mobile base. You can slow down to evade detection, or you can send your base into overdrive to escape the enemy. Actions consume power, so keep an eye on this bar to avoid running dry at the wrong moment. Controls: left-click objects to select them, move by selecting your base and then right-clicking on your destination. To cancel movement, hit Enter or press the Stop button. Press Tab to return to base. Press 1, 2, or 3 buttons in the top right corner to change the timescale. Press 4, 5, or 6 in the bottom, buttons at the bottom to use base actions. Move the camera with WASD, orbit with Q and E, and change pitch with R and F. Or, of course, you can use the middle mouse button. Okay, so in this case here, we'll just move straight to the mountain base. This is Felheim. A large underground facility that can serve as your base of operations without attracting enemy attention. Abandoned around 30 years ago, but still structurally intact. Large entrances built for old mining trucks and walkers can fit the mobile base. New beginning. It is time to take back our country. We should start with the mountain base, at the last outpost that belonged to the Phantom Brigade. It should still have some spare supplies and parts to help us get back on our feet. So you can see sort of our radar area here. So now we're getting more information about the mountain base. So our threat is 50 compared to 38. So as you might expect, this is probably not intended to be a very difficult battle. We don't have any clouds nearby, so we won't see any fancy rain as part of the encounter, but that will be in the future. Reclaim the base. Once a mining facility, the Valheim base was later retrofitted as an emergency mech storage depot, built to support forces of the homeland should they need them. When the invasion began, the country was overrun too quickly for anyone to utilize it. This abandoned place could serve us well if we managed to dispatch the enemy forces guarding it. People of this province become more hopeful when the Brigade defeats invaders, and so capturing Valheim will mean hope rises there. With enough hope, the region is liberated. More information about the province's hope level can be found under its name. Suit up, make battle preparations with your squad. So, eventually we will have 4 mechs as part of our our deployment, but currently we only have 2, Polaris and Foxtrot, Lars Jacobson and Sam Oswald. The Sleipnir, which has got the assault rifle and the, I think it's a pistol sidearm, and then the Lance, which was our shotgun shield combination. So the briefing screen is something that was added a couple of updates ago. So in this case, this gives you an idea of what you're actually up against. In this case, we'll have 2 mechs on the field, and then it looks like there's 1 unit of reinforcements. It'll also tell us on the left-hand side what the mission is. Attack a heavily fortified military location, eliminating all hostiles. Can be accomplished with 3 to 4 units, but be on your guard. They're dug in like ticks. Bait the enemies to bring them out of cover or use indirect fire weapons. The enemy reservists, a mix of reserve troops led by oddball elite specialists. What they lack in skill and experience, they make up for in sheer number. They're already here. Enemies are ready to immediately engage you, so keep your wits about you, and they brought backup. Reinforcements are on the perimeter and may deploy during battle. So they do outnumber us, but it's going to be 2-on-2 at the start, and then, if assuming that we can't take out the one, we'll just have to figure out what to do with the reinforcements. Not a whole lot to do for the first battle, so we'll just deploy. Okay, so we got 1 tank, 2 tanks. Okay, so there may be a mech that shows up later, but yeah, definitely going up against 2 tanks is that's not going to be the hardest problem in the world. Bravo 1, we're seeing 2 mechs approaching from the west, requesting immediate support. I'm getting a negative response on my IFF. Treat these walkers as hostile. Roger that, heading out. Might take a bit. This place is falling apart. These elevators are taking their sweet time. Okay. So 2 turns for the reinforcements. We've got a cannon and an autocannon. So essentially I can afford to ignore this unit as we approach, and then this is the one that we want to be scared of. So one approach that I might consider would be to sort of move the... I would maybe want to move my lance sort of around the buildings here. And essentially this is kind of the rock, paper, scissors game, right? I'll take the unit with the assault rifle and I'll get them to sort of pop off the autocannon before it becomes a problem, and then with the unit with the big shield, or the one that's a little bit slower moving, we'll get nice and close to cause them problems. So first thing I want to make sure I don't do is collide with my own units. So I don't mind moving around the edge in this case. The big reason for that is I get a chance to throw my shield up to protect my ally. So again, this is a really This attack is like really far away, so I don't think I have too much to fear from it, but we still need to get in position, so. Okay, still got hit. This is going to be where we do some damage. Let's just take a quick look and see how they're going to go after us. Okay. So the lance is going to be safe. The Sleipnir, on the other hand, is going to be attacked by the autocannon. So in this case, I want to try and position myself in such a way that I can... Basically, I want to damage it, but I don't want it to be able to damage me. So I'll peek out from behind our cover for starters. And in this case here, I'm not going to assign a very high priority on being able to damage this unit. This is a little bit more about keeping me out of harm's way. I think I've kind of closed off that possibility though. So maybe we'll just keep it at distance. Okay. It's out of optimal range. Yeah, so I don't have the heat for any further action. Now I am opening myself up to an attack from the cannon on the next turn here, but my hope is that we can get the lance doing some damage. Okay. So this unit kind of exists to absorb damage like this. And this is just following that principle of saying that, you know, the sooner I can get damage out, the better. It's not a great opportunity by any stretch of the imagination, but I do need to start getting some damage on the enemy units. So let's see how much damage the Sleipnir takes. Okay, so this thing's crashed. So I get basically half a turn before it's going to attack me. And engaging, let's deal with them and report to command. There's been no activity here for a while. I have no idea who these walkers are. So this is an enemy unit with an assault rifle. It's going to be one that is focusing on my lance. So I've got a couple of options on how to deal with this. First thing I want to do is get the Sleipnir in a slightly better spot. So I get a chance to put another attack on this unit. The big question is, am I going to be able to take it out before it fires on me? So it sort of looks like I'm not. But I actually still prefer sitting here, because this is sort of out of the optimal range of the autocannon. So what I do here is I just stay put. So the expectation is that this tank's not going to be able to do anything about it. Now if I take the lance and go around the edge like so. Okay, so I hide behind the building for a little bit. Interesting. So if I play really defensive on the attack, yeah, it's not worth it. So it's, again, it's kind of another one of these 1 in a million shots. Let's see if I can do something a little closer to the... not without getting too hot. Okay, so I'm not crazy about this turn being so defensive. But I don't think I have much in the way of options. So let's see how it turns out. No, that guy was already taken out. Okay, cool. So that one's crashing again. don't have too much to fear in terms of damage. So it looks like this unit's really got a score to settle with the lance. Now that works to my advantage because this unit's not going to be able to attack it. Actually, it's not going to do anything this turn. So this means that I've got a free Sleipnir to basically do whatever I want to this enemy unit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to a more central position. This is just because I've got a nice big line of sight on this unit. And then with the lance, even though it's not a fast-moving mech, I can just kind of stick it around the edge of the building to stop it from doing too much damage on me. This is important because the new update added the idea of repair gels. So it used to be that maybe there was I can't remember if there was a scrap charge or not, but basically it wasn't that costly to have to worry about repairing, whereas in the new version of the game you do actually need to kind of need to worry about the care and feeding of your units. So basically if you repair too much, you're going to have to go to another region to make sure that you've got enough material to be able to fix your units. Okay, so I'm just going to stay put here. This is going to be attacking me basically for the rest of the turn, so no point in giving it a chance to cause me problems. And I kind of go overkill on these attacks a lot. You know what? We'll just keep it with the one then. I don't want to overheat for no reason. Okay, so it looks like we still need to... Okay, yep, they're definitely going for me. So one more on the tank ought to do it. Now it looks like it looks like everybody's turning their attention on the Sleipnir now. So we're going to do the exact opposite of last turn, which is we'll move the the lance more aggressively, and it's going to be the Sleipnir that tries to be a little clever. Now the first thing that I need to consider is the lance going to do what it needs to do? So the attack comes at the 1 second mark. The attack, so this attack starts when the shotgun finishes its job. It's got the turret is at 39, the body is at 107, and then the treads are at 33. So this shotgun on a full attack does 257. So the trick, if I wanted certainty, what I would say is like, we'll take the attack, divide it by 3. Even then, assuming that it's sort of evenly distributed, like, I guess the thing is that any one of these components getting damaged is sufficient. If it's the right-hand side tread, I believe it crashes again, and I'm not going to get damaged. If the turret blows up, then, you know, it's not going to be able to attack me. And if the body blows up, then I'm going to, oh, hang on. Oh, yeah, no, sorry, that's just a percentage of its integrity. I thought that was a chance of getting hit. So, and it says here, right, main body's a critical part, turret's a critical part, right side is not a critical part. But basically, like, if I really wanted to get really, like, focused on how this works, I'd want to try and make some determination about my chance to hit, right? So at the start it says 70, 80%-ish. So we'd say, okay, well, an optimal attack is going to be 257, but we need to take, you know, the way I usually do these calculations is like 2 10% of this. So 25.7 times 2, so that's 51.4. And so, you know, again, if it's 257 minus the 51.4, effectively, we're looking at I think it's 205.6. And then we can say, okay, so with 205.6, is there a way that you could distribute 205.6 over all of these components that would leave all of them intact? Like, the nice thing here is that if one of these goes down, we're saved from the attack. In this case here, I don't think there's a way to distribute that. I think if we, I think, like, because all of these wind up being something that ends the attack, we're safe. But then again, there's that assumption of like, well, where does that 80% come from? Should I trust that number? So on and so forth. And again, like this is a fairly straightforward battle, so I don't need to like go nuts in terms of the planning. What I do need to account for though is how I'm going to react to this attack. So one thing I can do is just run for cover right away. Now my preference would be if I'm going to do that to start attacking, so that basically I can sort of do this fighting retreat. The big catch here is that I used up my heat before, so the best I can do is kind of have half this attack go into the side of the building, which I'm not necessarily opposed to, but the question is, where does that leave me for my follow-up? So if, as an alternative, I sort of hold back, I say, okay, I'm going to use this building as defense. So we hold out like this. So I say, okay, my turn now. So then, this is one thing you can do, by the way, if you're unsure about when to attack, like just put an attack down and then you can slide it on the viewer. So that works well for me here. We finish our attack, and then we move back. It looks like... yeah, that works out. So that brings us back to that original question of, does it make sense for me to do a partial move before? I just threw away all my... I just threw away all my my turns. So try and be a little closer to the corner before they do their attack. Okay, actually, there's some possibilities here. So then I tuck myself in a little more tightly, so they waste their fire. And in fact, partway through, the angles work more to my advantage, so I can actually start moving out like this. Yeah, there's some pretty strong possibilities here, actually. The key here is that they attack me at the end of the turn, so I sort of have this nice open, you know, open period, as long as I'm able to kind of get back to my cover. There we go. I mean, I don't even necessarily have to move back to this position over here. It's clear that by the time they're done their move, the position that I attack them from is... we tag the edge of the building there. I just don't know if it really makes a lot of sense for me to... I guess that works a little better. Nope, that still hits the edge. Okay, cool. That's a really narrow. That's a really narrow attack. Now, I don't know if this will wrap up the battle. The one way that it could would be if we take out the right arm, but I think it's going to be facing its left towards us. But one thing I do like about this game is that when you hit the action, you can hit spacebar, and you get to watch it all in slow motion. All right, so we didn't finish it off, although I think there's another shot. Yeah, so that's done. So if we can get some good rear shots on them, we're in good shape. Yeah, that's the sort of stuff I love seeing, right? And this is why this game, this is kind of why I think the cinematic part of the pitch is so important. Like, it's really neat to just be able to have, little moments where you've set up something inside of a game. You get to watch it all play out. But it's not just that you kind of get to see your tactics on display, but, you can go in really close and you can kind of see, first of all, beautiful mountains in the background and all of that. But, you see your unit trying to take the shots and the bullets whizzing past the enemy. Or, in that case, that's not turning out for me. But if I have something like an enemy unit that's attacking me, and I'm saying, okay, this whole plan is around, trying to make sure that this enemy unit, is not going to be able to do its attack. That kind of a situation can be really rewarding to watch. So looking at what we're contending with, so this is one thing that I found kind of helpful in terms of the game. I don't normally like starting attacks where the majority happens over the course of the next turn. So effectively what's happened here... Now, I mean, in fairness, we already have perfect knowledge of what the AI is going to do. So, this was probably going to happen anyway. But basically, this unit is committed to spending its entire turn attacking me in a position it knows it's not going to be able to do any damage to me from. So effectively, I kind of get a free turn with my Sleipnir here for a bit. So maybe just move around a little bit because I am going to want to make a move on the enemy. So we'll wait out the last little bit of the attack as much as I can anyway, and we'll run around the edge. Now, one of the things I want to try and do here is just give myself a good vantage point. One of the things that's nice about the assault rifle is that it doesn't get the same sort of penalty that other weapons do for moving and attacking. So generally the Sleipnir is a unit that I sort of just zip around the battlefield with. But if I can sort of stand and fire, I want to take that opportunity. So maybe we'll finish the attack here, see if we can get a slightly better angle. So here's a good example. Let's say I wanted to do a second attack like this. So first of all, there's a heat penalty. It's like, okay, well, I want to preserve the heat, so maybe we'll just wait till I'm a little bit closer to where the enemy is. If I do something like this, essentially I'm committing myself to an attack, and I'm committing myself to behavior that the AI is going to be able to use to respond to me. So what I'm essentially doing is I'm actually giving the AI the advantage that I have over it. So in that case, I normally kind of like making sure that my attacks are complete, although if you watch enough of my VODs, you will know that I'm not very strict in adhering to that rule. So what I'm going to do here as an alternative, I do want to try and get a little bit closer. I think the likelihood of me being able to pull off the attack is... So essentially what I need to do here is find a way of getting this done sooner. So the way I can change that is by movement. If I just went straight like this... Okay, actually that does open some possibilities. It still creates heat problems though. Okay, that's just not happening. That's the easy way of putting it. Okay, left arm lost. That's not a game changer for us. But we are keeping the concussion up on the enemy unit. So, looks like they're still sort of following their... Oh, no, they're not following their grudge on the lance. Okay, that's really convenient for me. So what I get to do here with the Sleipnir, this is also, you get to see an example of where not committing myself to certain actions earlier can help. Oh, looks like he gets away a little too soon. Okay, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep the Sleipnir in play. Nope, can't do that either. So I'll put them behind my trusty old wall, and we'll worry about a reply later. So what's happening here is that the original intention was going to be moving the Sleipnir down this side, get a shot in the back, and then run to cover. That can't happen. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to move the lance in such a way that I can get a good shot on the enemy. Now, one thing I could do is just throw up my shield and cause this guy to fall down, but this isn't a particularly convenient place for my Sleipnir to attack from. So I'm actually going to let them do their... I'm going to let them take their turn the way they want to, but I will make sure that I have a welcoming present for them. So one of these. And then I believe we also get to fire one into the back. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a heat problem there, so we'll wait out the movement. So I'm a slower moving unit than the enemy. It's not exactly the optimal range, but it's darn close. Okay, so then the last little bit is, we watch the enemy unit do its thing. I'm actually going to just go a little bit closer to the left on this building. And it's just, kind of looking at the angles, right? So you can get a nice top-down view. There's really no way that this is gonna hit my unit. But what it does allow me to do, once the threat's gone, so just sort of face forward for a bit. I think we're pretty safe once we go here, so then we can move back. So see what happens. I hold position, I start moving back, and then right around the time that they become a viable target, I'm able to open fire on them. In fact, I might be able to push that forward a little. Nope, it's a little too premature. So even though my shotgunner is, they're wasting a little bit of their fire, we've got a welcoming party in the form of the Sleipnir. So that should be enough to take that unit out. Okay, looks like they got that concussion back, so... Oh, looks like they kind of hit me on the edge. Alright, so that was lower body we took out, so I'm assuming that they're just going to eject. Now, letting them eject is useful because there's scrap in this game, so I'm going to get my people in position in case they decide to do, shenanigans. But my hope here is that they're going to eject, and then I don't need to, I don't need to give up any of the useful scrap. Yeah, so we just hold our position. All hostiles eliminated, site under control. So where this becomes helpful is on the chance that the weapon is an upgrade for us, we don't have to pay as much in order to be able to claim it. So that'll be explained in here. As the smoke clears from the fight, we have time to search the battlefield. On defeat, we may recover parts lost by our units. On victory, we can also salvage enemy equipment and items. This is your salvage budget. You can't carry every last scrap, so you'll need to prioritize. The budget is fixed on defeat, but it increases depending on the number of destroyed units on victory. So this does give you a little bit of an incentive to be more bloodthirsty than you might otherwise be. The ability to sort of... So there are some missions where it's very much sort of run in, grab the goods, and get out of there. But even those missions, it can be advantageous to sort of play against the stated goal of the mission, just simply because you're able to get more of a scrap budget. So if you're doing particularly well, there's definitely a reason to stick around and destroy enemy units. You can't choose to take. You can choose to take dismantle for supplies or leave items. Free items such as objective rewards are displayed at the top. Otherwise, salvage cost varies, but recovering a full item is more costly than dismantling it for supplies. You cannot confirm your choices unless they fit within your salvage budget, so choose wisely. So in this case here, we're automatically getting the Shred shotgun and the Astra assault rifle. One thing that is sort of on my little wish list, and it might actually already be on like the known issues or plans or that, but I would personally find it quite helpful to have some information about what I currently have equipped, because I don't really have a good idea as to whether or not this Astra is better than the existing weapon that I have. It does 54 concussive damage, which seems pretty good. It's 139 regular damage. You can hold control to get even more details about how the weapon works. One comparison I can make, though, would be this Astra. So 52 190, 52 139. So it seems like this is the superior weapon. It's 4566 for range, so that's the same optimal interval. Both do 13 shots. And it looks like the mass and heat are the same as well. But in any case, you'll notice that some of these have sort of this pixelated look. So this is damaged. This part is increased salvage cost due to the damage that it sustained. So if I take the Elbrus, the Astra, and the Elbrus arm, so that's 45 of 90. So we can compare this to the arm that we destroyed, and that's got 25. So 10 salvage units more, which means that we can't take everything. So at this point, I kind of need to decide, well, what do I want to scrap? Well, we know that this Astra weapon is an improvement to my to what I have already. We destroyed the legs, so maybe what I'll say, it's like, okay, well, this is useful for scrap for me. So in this case, we can't, like, if I leave it, that doesn't really get me anything. If I scrap it, on the other hand, I recover some extra supplies, right? I get another 25. And so even though we're a bit under budget, just because of the damage that I did to the enemy. I mean, there's another thing that I could do, like, you know, switch around the numbers like this, but it's not necessarily just about like maximizing the cost of the budget. In this case, I'm just simply getting more units and more useful, or sorry, more objects and more useful objects this way. So we'll confirm that. Now, I think there used to be a time that you would wait for scrap, but I don't believe that that's true anymore. So we'll just unpause and see what the game has to say about this. All right, Felheim. This isn't just a handy base where you can recruit pilots. You can also use the mountain base as your fallback outpost when necessary. If you lose all your units and pilots at any point, you can fall back to this base and rebuild. Retreating gives a new squad fitted with essential equipment at the same level as the highest level province you control. Now that Felheim has been liberated, you should start making your way to the capital while liberating as many provinces as you can. Okay, so we'll pause. Yeah, so the main objective here is to liberate the capital, but the game is also saying to liberate Headmark, which I believe is... liberate Headmark by eliminating enemy-controlled defensive structures in the area. Consider taking on easier targets before approaching military structures. It may prove a difficult fight if you're unprepared. So it's possible that... Oh yeah, no, I think if I move up in the region, there'll be another thing for me to check out. Now, before I do anything else, I don't recall if I can... Okay. I thought I would be able to do recruiting in the mountain base, but apparently not. I mean, it makes sense that it would raise the question as to why you do recruiting elsewhere if I could just go up to 8 pilots right away. But what I do want to do here is see if I can get some upgrades in. So I am also going to need to repair, but let's... Oh, are they not going to let me... Huh. I would have thought I could just... I would have thought I should just be able to repair and upgrade my units right away. So let's see what's in the upgrades. Okay, so we've got the mobile base, the workshop. Movement, cruise mode, stealth mode. These are all automatically unlocked. So like I'm really not in a point where I want to be spending any more supplies. Okay, interesting. I feel like I'm missing a subtlety here in terms of repairs and such. Or maybe that's just happening automatically? Yeah. So stationed patrol, 60th Army Unit reserves a squadron of enemy soldiers who stay on the move as they hunt for the Phantom Brigade. Eliminating all patrols in the area should stop guards elsewhere in the region from calling for reinforcements. I'm largely doing this just because I can. Looks like we've got 2 units that are at full health. Okay, so now I can start editing. So this is where it's easy. What I tend to find is I get a lot of I wind up getting a lot of parts, and then I don't know what to do with myself. So in this case here, looks like these are identical. So I don't have anything to do with this one. The right arm, again, same story, otherwise the same. But the right slot, we've got 2 weapons. Oh, but my existing weapon does 199, so I'm not going to do anything to the Sleipnir. And then the lance, it's possible there's an improved shotgun. So let's just see. So it says the optimal interval. All right, so I should figure out exactly what optimal interval means, because I'd always thought that shorter was better. But apparently there is another way of thinking about that. I remember there was a discussion on this in the Discord. So I'm not going to switch it out. Basically, I'm going to take the game's word for it and say that a smaller optimal interval is worse. Also, just the damage is low. Oh, sorry, that's the Astra. I'm going to take the game's word for it that the shorter optimal interval is worse off. And then I'll do some homework on that. And then as for the arms and upper bodies, so I'm not going to be replacing any of this. However, I'm not going to be scrapping these either, because I do want to create other mechs for my team to work with. So I don't believe I can do that right now. That would be the workshop where I'm doing that anyway. So I don't want to build a... Yeah, mech frame would be. So yeah, we need 200 supplies for that. But that's going to be my first priority, is to get two more mechs when I can. Okay. Roaming squad. An enemy squad is ahead. Your pilots are trained fighters, but don't drop your guard. Take time to prepare before combat and make sure that you have your best gear equipped. Once combat begins, it's important to manage heat levels of your units. Mechs will produce heat whenever they use their weapons or dash. This heat dissipates over time. Left to climb, it will begin to cause damage until a mech has cooled down. A mech can be destroyed by heat damage, leading to automatic ejection of a pilot. Okay, so it's an elimination match, no reinforcements. We've got 2 sort of in the center, it looks like. And let's just go straight to deployment. This is the point of no return. Make sure your squad is properly outfitted. Continuing would start the combat encounter. Okay, so looks like 1 mech and 1 tank. What a persistent bunch. Command won't commit any more drop squads to the site. So let's get this over with. So if I want to retreat, I can do so in 3 turns, but you don't play a game like this so you can run away. All right, so they've got an assault rifle and an autocannon. So basically, it's the same strategy we employed in the previous encounter. Where I can, the sort of rock paper scissors game that we would be playing would be the Sleipnir should target the tank because they're able to maximize the distance between the two of them, and they're able to attack effectively at a range that the tank can't operate at. So let me just make sure that works. Get into a slightly better position to do the second attack. So obviously the terrain becomes a little bit of a problem here. And I'm actually going to start running to the back of the mountain on the odd chance that this unit with the assault rifle turns around and sees an opportunity here. So the lance is in a little bit of a difficulty where, again, if I want the rock, paper, scissors game, sure, it makes sense for me to sort of run in on the enemy units to close the distance, but it is also a slower moving unit. So for instance, let's say I just decide, okay, I'm gonna say declare I'm king of the hill. Well, that's fine, but you can kind of see what happens here, right? They get this nice opportunity to just constantly fire on my unit here. And while I'm not that worried about the damage that I take, there's an alternative. So for instance, if I sit behind this hill here, there's 2 possibilities. One, so priority number 1, I don't take damage. And if I can avoid taking damage, so much the better, because that just means that I'm not using up repairing resources. But also, I suspect this isn't going to happen because a tank is lower than a mech. But there's also the small possibility that there's friendly fire that happens here. So effectively, what I'm doing here is I'm using the terrain to my advantage. They're already moving towards me. So what I can do then, I actually finish this move right around the time that they finish their attack. So I'm going to do one quick thing here. And that's throw up my my shield just as a precaution. But then I'm going to start moving in on them. Actually, I'm going to hold back. This is a little more cowardly than I normally like with a slow-moving unit, but on the odd chance that they try to attack me again. Essentially, I've got 2 units that I can put behind cover, and so what I can do here is the one that's getting attacked, I hide, and then the one that's not being attacked moves in. Okay, this is great, because this guy's going to trip over his ally. Oh, nope, he's just going to step over him. All right, so let's see what happens with the... Yep, okay, so as anticipated, they kind of turned around and said that the Sleipnir is a bigger threat. What I wasn't anticipating, though, was how quickly they would start that attack. So it actually looks like they basically have a clean shot on me no matter what. So, 2 can play at that game. We're just going to keep... Oh, I can't. Okay, so... I kind of have a plan for a situation like this. So one thing you could say is, okay, we'll get out of the optimal range by running in the opposite direction, right? That is definitely a possibility. But notice what happens here. I wind up turning my back to a unit that's attacking me in its optimal range, which means I'm going to get concussive damage, and I'm going to basically I'm in a bad spot overall. So the alternative that I normally like to do, remembering that original statement from the game, that's a good idea to always be on the move. I could, of course, try running in closer to the attack, right? And deal with the optimal range that way. And that is a possibility. But my preference generally is to basically move perpendicular to the attack. Because as you saw with my own attack, this unit's moving. So remember back when I attacked the unit in that previous map, I fired a shot at an optimal range on an enemy unit and nothing hit. And that was because both of us were moving. And so in this particular case here, if you have somebody running towards you, chances are you're going to hit, right? But if you have someone who is sort of moving side to side, it's more likely that you're not going to succeed in those attacks. So I guess it doesn't even matter which side I run. But essentially what I want to try and do is just, again, move perpendicular. I mean, it's a little tricky, right? Because the angle changes. But if I do something like, a move like this, I'm just trying to think of the straightest line that I can. I guess it would be this one. I suppose the real the quote-unquote optimal one would be sort of like a move like this. I don't really know if it accomplishes all that much, but I can obviously do the same thing. So essentially this is me just admitting that the attack is going to happen. There's nothing that I can do to stop it. But what I can do is sort of prepare. Okay, that works really well for me, actually. So we'll move in a way that hopefully stops the enemy from being able to do too much damage to me. And then as a sort of a follow-up, I get an attack on them, and I also position myself in such a way that I'm going to be able to flush them out. Now, in this particular case, keeping the lance behind didn't serve me well, because in this case I've just got so much time I need to take to close the distance. But let's just take a quick look and see how this attack works for the enemy. It'd be nice if you could save in the middle of an attack to just really see how this stuff works. So you could, in theory, you save the game at one point and you try charging the enemy, and then you save at another point, and then you move perpendicular to the attack. But in this case here, let's just we'll see how it turns out in movie mode. All right, so it looks like only 2 missed. Okay, so apparently the enemy reservists are much better shots than we are. Oh wow, we got hit by the other. All right, so that was not a good turn. That was not a good turn for the Sleipnir. It definitely, the enemy unit really managed to get the edge on them. 36 damage as opposed to 136. But I am behind my rock of safety, so I'll wait for the attack to wrap up. Go around the edge. Now, it may be that this isn't a secure position. Okay, it says it is, so take its word for it. And what I'll try and do, again, I don't want to be a complete coward. So maybe what I'll do is sit on top. Now, I'll admit, this definitely feels like a bit of a... This definitely feels like more of a wishful move. You know, I don't know if they can aim a little higher and just go for the head, but let's hope for the best. The one thing that is nice is that the lance is going to be able to close the distance, so at the very least we can start sort of bringing them in on the action here. So it starts off with a low chance to hit, but I kind of want to make sure that this happens within the normal timeline. So let's see how it turned out. Ah, that worked really well. Okay, so now they're focusing on the lance. So what I'm going to do with the Sleipnir is make sure that they have a nice high position to attack from on the hill, at least for the start. Normally I only get 2 attacks a turn, so I'm not too opposed to doing it this way. And what I'll do is I'm just basically going to assume that I'm going to get, like, the lance is not going to be able to escape whatever attacks coming after it. So I'll basically set up a shield to avoid what's coming in. Definitely want to make sure that I'm avoiding any potential friendly fire. Okay, so I'm going to move the shield up a little bit closer in the timeline. So I definitely want to have the shield up for the attack, but I don't necessarily want to have the shield up after the attack, because that's potential time for me to be able to attack the enemy. So basically, shield is up prematurely, but that doesn't do anything to us. Unit attacks. Shield's up for the entire attack. And we're still in the optimal range for a shotgun. And then we pick it up with the Sleipnir. I might try moving a little, so I'll stay put. In this case, staying put makes sense. See if I can maybe get away with a second attack. Looks like I can't, actually. So actually, in this case, I'll just move in. Yeah, that works for me. So, as some more... in this case, the unit was effectively... or, no, I don't think it was destroyed. I think it was concussive there. But we do have another assault rifle that we get intact. Okay, so in this case, I believe this is because it was a patrol attack. We don't get any kind of guaranteed drops off of it, but the upper body for the Elbrus was intact, the burst assault rifle, and the Elbrus arm. Now what I can just do here is I can hit recover on everything. So as we can see here, it's a 120 cost. And as is usual, what I want to do in this case here is just eliminate the stuff that I don't think I'm going to use. So for instance, is it nice to have handguns? Sure. Do I want to spend 25 of my budget on the handgun? No. In this case, we're not even going to scrap it. We're just gonna get rid of that altogether. Now, we could say, okay, so I can get an Elbrus arm, or I can get Elbrus legs. Now, this is, again, I don't want to flog this point too much, but this is a great example of where some information about what I currently have would be helpful. Because what we ran into before was saying, like, okay, well, the arms weren't that helpful for me, so why would I want to bring in another one, right? Why not just scrap one of the arms here? Now the drawback is I don't remember what that value for the arm was. So, this is a level 1 Elbrus, doesn't seem to have any modifications on it. I'm going to assume that this is the same configuration that I had before. But just being able to say, hey, what have I got currently equipped on someone? Okay, it's the same integrity. Sure, let's take a chance with the legs. Or, at that point, I would be able to look at the legs and say, okay, this isn't an improvement, so I'm really indifferent as to which of these two things I scrap. But right now, the judgment that I'm going to be making is saying that, okay, the arm didn't work for us before. We've already got one replacement here. We turn this one into a scrap instead of a salvage, and we use our full budget. And generally, I like to salvage more than scrap for the simple reason that I can always scrap it in the workshop later. Although I rarely do. That is one problem with the way that I play this game, is I am a bit of a hoarder, but I think that's true for a lot of games. So, okay. So we've got the reserve camp now, Anchor 59, a reinforced camp used to stage attacks and send patrols of newly trained soldiers out to nearby locations. Eliminating all units here will drastically reduce the invaders' presence in the province. Now before I do anything, right, we're still damaged, so, well, the lance isn't damaged, so. Yep, so this body is the same, lower body's identical. Yeah, so these are all the same, which is still, that's not necessarily bad. because I do want to have other mechs. I want to be able to build them, ideally as soon as possible. So we're at 125 on supplies. One thing I could do when I'm taking a look at potential weapons. So remember I said that we wanted 4 mechs in the squad. Well, right now I've got 3 weapons. So, I've got 4 weapons. So I've already got an assault rifle. So in the case of the assault rifles, I've already chosen not to equip most of them. The only exception is going to be the Sleipnir, and I don't think I get to see what's equipped. So maybe we'll just wait till it's repaired. But basically, I know I'm not going to use some of these assault rifles. Revealed preferences are such that I'm not going to use... I'm going to always refuse those weapons. And so it makes sense for those to scrap them, and scrapping them may potentially mean that I can build another mech. So we'll start moving towards the camp. We do need to make sure that we're at full health first. So I'm a little curious here. I noticed that there was... Oh, you know what? It was probably barrier that it was recovering. So you may notice that some of the attacks, the damage that they do are listed in green. Basically, there's some equipment which has a barrier, which is sort of that's something that you can regenerate, as opposed to the as opposed to like the physical damage that happens to the actual part itself. So we'll go to the Sleipnir. Let's just see if that assault rifle is an upgrade. So this is basically the same thing. Now this is good news because I can effectively just build a second squad like this. But like basically at this point now I can say it's like, okay, so we've got the AR-01 Astra. So if I build 2 more mechs, at the very least, I'm not going to use 1 assault rifle. I may just equip everyone with assault rifles, at which point I can scrap the shotgun, but at the very least, I'm going to be throwing away one of these guns. Now, because I've already said I've demonstrated that I prefer the AR-3 burst, I'm probably going to wind up keeping that one. The Astra is a more long-range weapon. It also takes it also has a longer distance. This is the one with a negative damage modifier, so this is a pretty obvious candidate for scrapping. And then if we take a look at its value in terms of supplies, it's 20 as opposed to 30, so I'm sort of giving something up there. This is actually the one shame, is that if I only scrap using this weapon, I'm not going to have enough to build another mech body. But I'm still going to be kind of conservative in terms of how I handle this stuff. So, which is the one with the damage modifier, this one. So in this case, we can do scrapping. I mean, there's nothing attached to it. Wait, we got 30 supplies for that? That doesn't make any sense. That may already be known. I mean, the one thing I do sometimes get worried about when submitting this stuff is I'm telling them things that they already know. But I'm hoping that will contribute something. But it does mean that in the workshop we can build a new mech frame. Or no, we can't. Oh, we only have 155. Where did I think I had 175? I'm gonna have to watch the VOD on this, because I feel like we've lost scrap. Okay, it doesn't matter though, we'll go to the reserve camp. Military structures. Military structures are usually more challenging than roaming squads or occupied settlements and facilities. However, they also store better loot and have units with higher quality gear. You can inspect units on the battlefield and check their equipment. Being careful can pay off if you're after particular gear. The direction from which you attack a target can change the likelihood of destroying a part. For instance, attacking from behind is more likely to damage the legs. I also really like, so this is just a nice little example of how they communicate things. I like that they gave this example, because if you think about it, right, if you attack from the left, nobody serious is going to think that you're going to damage the right arm if you're attacking from the left. That just, well, actually, I guess, no. Like, I was just thinking, is like, well, then you maybe ask people the question, well, like, are you talking about left in relation to other people? But you know what I mean, right? You can intuitively understand the side that's exposed to you is more likely to get damaged. You probably don't need elaboration on that. But what isn't necessarily obvious is that attacking from behind is going to damage the legs. In fact, for a lot of mech games, they treat them like tanks, which is to say that, you've got a bunch of armor up at the front, and that generally the back is less well armored. And so that can be a weak point, particularly if you are running a very light squad. So the example I like giving is, I don't play MechWarrior Online as much as I used to, but I love running around in Locusts, usually with just a bunch of beams, because the whole point is to constantly be moving, be utterly impossible to hit, and essentially to just drill through, Atlases and King Crabs from behind. And I can remember having a one-on-one with a admittedly damaged Atlas, but there was no question in my mind who was going to win that encounter, because they just simply could not get a good shot on me, and so essentially I just kind of wore them down. I think in that case, their rear armor was exposed. Now, obviously, if I was overconfident there, or maybe they were a little bit better at aiming, like, I would have been clobbered, and my teammates would have been justifiably cross with me for throwing the match, but. In this case, Phantom Brigade doesn't model armor in, like, it models armor in specific locations. So you've got the torso, the arms, the legs, and also a shield potentially. But it doesn't worry about sort of front and back of those areas. What it does instead is it says, depending on where you are in relation to the enemy, you're going to more likely target certain areas. So. I believe if you attack from behind, that also does more concussive damage. So that's probably the best way to wind up with the gear that you want. It might actually be interesting. I mean, maybe because I'm starting a new run, maybe I can try and do the highest concussive damage I can do with a squad, and see if we can wind up with a lot of scrap as a result. But basically, the fact that they give the counterintuitive. Or maybe not counterintuitive, but at least unintuitive example of attacking from behind being something that damages the legs. I like this because basically you can sort of fill in the blanks on everything else. Into the fray, the base comes alive with the sound of boots crashing against the floor. In the hangar, an engineer shouts his instructions to the crew, and a pilot rushes to get changed. You keep your eyes trained on the battle console, settling yourself with a deep breath. Suit up. So again, no changes to make to the squad. I probably should have spent more time looking at the briefing screen, actually, but... I find this map a little tricky. I think it's just because there's a lot of winding areas for me to walk through, and generally I'm not in a situation to be able to... Oh, actually, that's a good placement, though. Rebel unit sighted, requesting immediate reinforcements. Let's make this quick. So reinforcements arrive in 2 turns. I can retreat in 3 turns, but we don't retreat. Yeah, so normally when I do this mission, we've started up here. So this is, I actually really like this. I don't know what game started doing this, but I know BattleTech does this with his maps as well, which is that the number of maps can sometimes seem larger than it is. And again, let me be clear, like, I don't think Phantom Brigade is lacking in maps. Although, you know, I am delighted that Nikita continues to be employed and you know, does useful and productive work. So, you know, I will always happily see more maps as well. I think Nikita works on the maps. Apologies if I've mislabeled the jobs. But basically, normally what happens is I'll start up here, and what I generally tend to find is that the AI is pretty good at, I don't know if this is something that it intentionally does or it just naturally moves that way, but I actually find it really hard to shoot into these regions. So number one, I just think this is a little bit cooler. Like, obviously, if you're trying to get the drop on an enemy unit or like an enemy force, chances are you're going to come from the woods, which admittedly this is also from the woods as well. But like, this is definitely the sort of place I would think of in terms of sneaking in. But more importantly, to the point I was making earlier, like, I just really like the fact that I'm familiar with this map, but the experience on the map is different just purely based on where we're starting. So even if I want to say, you know, I know there's a very unhelpful kind of culture in at least some circles of gaming, which says, you know, reusing assets is somehow beyond the pale, that the consumer's being cheated somehow. And I really just do not think that this is a justifiable perspective at all. Like, if you sit down and think about it, I just don't see how someone can really, like, I just think there's another issue going on somewhere. I think somebody's mad about something else, and it just happens to be that this is the thing that they're talking about. But this is a great example where, you know, instead of, I don't know, quadrupling, let's say, the number of maps that you need to make to sort of feel like there's some variety, I can remember some really, I think like one of the first matches that I had for this new map was in this area over here. We almost never touched this base area, and the majority of the combat was actually focused in here. And much like for BattleTech, I tend to find that it creates it kind of creates a sense of there being a lot more variety than what I would think if somebody had just told me the number of maps that were present in the game. Okay, so we've got 2 attacks coming at roughly the same time, it looks like. Oh, nope. So it's actually a total of... No, it's just one excessively long shotgun attack. Okay. So one thing that's a little helpful, if we just stay put, everybody... no, sorry, that's not true. I was going to say, if we stay put, everybody's going to hit the side of a hill, but that isn't true. The autocannon is going to eventually hit me. So first thing I want to do, this is kind of advantageous because the lance is a slow-moving unit, so if I can just lumber along so that the tank is hitting the side of the hill for the majority of the attack, that gives me some options. So I do want to protect myself. So this is one of these cases where I'm going to be crossing over into the next turn as far as attacks. I'm not crazy about that. But in this particular case, rather than focusing too much on the enemy units, so I'm kind of hoping for a little bit of friendly fire here. I'm not 100% sure if it'll work out. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let them come to us. And essentially, if I'm lucky, we can possibly take out the tank before the enemy mech gets involved. Yes, the only drawback here is I'm running a bit hot. So if I move back, nope, moving back doesn't help. So essentially what I'm trying to do is to just get this attack started as soon as I possibly can. And I'm using the, I'm sure you've noticed by now, but basically the dotted line is sort of the indicator that you're hitting something on the edge. Okay, so like this is not a bad example. I think it's because I'm on higher ground. But as this unit starts moving in, it looks like I'm actually slightly in danger. So what I think I'm going to do is I will move slightly to the left. Again, I can afford to move. I can afford to move in the Sleipnir because I don't suffer penalties for I don't suffer the same penalties for moving as I would if I had a proper machine gun. So the overall structure of the attack is like this. I would definitely have preferred to fire the shotgun more than once, but this is okay. The autocannon isn't necessarily the most threatening, but if I can take a piece off the board before the reinforcements arrive, that works really well for me. Also, just take a look at where we're at the very end of this turn. So this is a shotgun unit. My shotgunner is in close range as this guy is going to be coming around the edge. I've got a shield that I can use if I feel like I'm in trouble, and I can also maybe try running away, but I don't really think that makes a lot of sense to do for a tankier unit. I've got a full attack on this enemy unit here, although I think I lost the potential for... No, there's still potential for friendly fire, so I might get lucky with friendly fire. So we get a nice full set of 2 attacks on the tank, and more importantly, at the end of the turn, I'm in a good position for my assault rifle to take some shots on the shotgunner. But the shotgun is not necessarily in an optimal range. At the very least, I should be able to sort of run into some better cover over the time that it takes them to be able to do their attack. So I'm going to slow things down just to see what happens to the tank at the start, but otherwise we'll do a normal turn. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get lucky there. Nope. That's what I get for doubting. Not a lot of damage, though. That's maybe something I'll want to keep in mind for, for whether I feel like I need to run away from. Okay, so we definitely got a little tag on the shotgun, but that definitely worked very well for us. So this unit's going to focus its attention on the lance. So one thing I can try and do with the lance, of course, is run away. Right, so I move back like this, and that might help me. I can, at the very least, I can sort of move the shield to a slightly more advantageous position. So one thing that it's done is, with the shield up, it's kind of put me outside of the range of the really threatening part of this attack. What I think I'm going to do for the rest, let's see if I can sneak around the edge like this. Okay, so the game says that's not going to do what I think it should. So obviously I'm reluctant to have an attack that rolls over into the next turn because they're almost certainly going to want to fire on me. Yeah, so even though this is probably going to mean some inefficiency in terms of how much damage I'm going to do, I do get the option of throwing my shield up again, and I value that more than maybe having an optimal shot. So the one little drawback here is that this unit's kind of running away right away. So the opportunity to fire on the enemy unit, even if the heat wasn't a factor, not quite the same as what I thought it was going to be. So we're definitely going to chase them, given that we know that they're not threatening us now. Like, we want to make sure that they're sort of in the optimal in that optimal circle. and we'll chase them down. Okay, so they're using the terrain pretty well here. Yeah, I just don't think that's... I actually don't think this attack's gonna work. So, what I'll do instead, I do want to make sure... So this is going to seem a little bit of a cowardly move, but I actually want to make sure that this unit is locked into its attack before I try and make a move on it. The Sleipnir is a fast-moving unit. So here's what happens. My suspicion is that by moving this way, this shotgunner, the Guardian, is going to attack the Lance. And what that's going to mean is that the Sleipnir can run around the edge and attack it from behind. If I move the Sleipnir up here, it's possible that the Guardian turns around and starts attacking the Sleipnir, at which point the Sleipnir needs to run around the edge, but it potentially takes damage from the shotgun. So in this case here, I'm leaving the Lance out as bait because it at least has the shield to sort of throw up to defend itself. And then that gives me the opportunity with my more concussive weapon anyway to do some really good damage on the back. So we'll see whether or not it turns out that way, but that's the plan for this turn. So that's all barrier. Oh, not fully barrier. Actually, they managed to hit me with a lot more than I thought they were going to. Sierra 2 on the field. What's taking you so long? Surround them and finish them off. Okay, so it's another mech we're going to have to deal with. Reasonably close to the environment. Also looks like they have a shield. No, it's an assault rifle. For some reason, I thought it looked like they had a shield. But sort of as anticipated, it looks like they are going to be. It looks like they are going to be doing attacks on the Lance. So I want to prepare. I don't think this collision is to my advantage. So the one problem I have with attacking like this is I'm attacking them on their shield side. So maybe I can try and set myself up for a slightly more effective reply. Yeah, so the problem with this is they do get another hit with their shotgun on me. But I think I'm going to eat it and just try and compensate with the Sleipnir. So, you know, we did enter. I mean, so I can't complain about the the Lance being targeted. We did say it was the bait. So what I want to do here, there's a very specific reason why so you'll notice that I have a tendency to put this attack and like try and tease it to the left as much as I can. Basically, I know with this current configuration, I get 2 attacks with my primary weapon, my assault rifle. And the reason why I want to try and put where I want to put this attack as far to the left as possible is my politics. No, is basically I get that like a fraction of a second to help it cool down. So the difference here, so we start the attack at about 3.9. So in this case here, I end the turn, my highest point of heat is 94, at which point things start cooling down, and at the end of the encounter I'm at 83. And then we can contrast that with me... Ooh, that's not finishing. Wait, why do we finish at 83? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, right, because there's been time for this to cool down. In any case, we got 83 here. And... Oh, okay. Well, that's what I get for trying to be too clever. It looks like we actually end in the same spot. No, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, so I think I was under a misapprehension for a little while. I'm still going to do it this way, but I guess, yeah, we still get the advantage of... We basically have a longer period of cooling, so that's why that logic doesn't work. Never mind me. Okay, so now it's going to start hitting meat or steel. Ah, nice. I was definitely not expecting that. So in this case, now we have full opportunities on the assault rifle wielding mech. Now, one drawback is that my shield is sort of set up in preparation for an attack from the shotgunner. Hey, Angry Biscuit, how you doing? That is a wonderful emote, by the way. My apologies, Angry Biscuit, 388th of your name. It's important to recognize titles. Okay, so what I want to do here again is just try and, where I can, I want to take advantage of territory. This unit works best at close range, so I want to close the distance as much as possible. And while obviously my shield is a little worse for wear, I still have it and should use it. So in this case, the shield is going to be protecting against a unit that's dead, so I don't need to worry about... I mean, I'd prefer to cancel it, but there is no way to cancel a shield mid-use. So what I'm going to do instead is we're going to move... This is partly to just take advantage of the territory, but I can't quite close the distance. So what I do get to do is by moving in close like this, we're blunting the advantage of this assault rifle. I'm pretty sure this is an Astra because of its long range. Yeah, AR-1 Astra does 190 damage in its full volley, but because we're kind of testing the edges of the optimal range, whatever damage it does to my my shield is going to be minimal, and then of course it'll be firing into the edge of the hill afterwards. Now they do get to move around the edge at the end of the turn. So like one thing I could try and do is maybe pop up like this, say haha what a nice practical joke, and then actually, you know what, I like that idea, because like if they attack me at close range, that's their problem, not mine. I've been a little passive with my team lately, so I think in this case here, just being able to make them regret firing those shots. Now the decision I need to make with the Sleipnir is this. I can go to the right, and if I say, okay, well the unit's been moving like this, so maybe we get an attack on their back. We likely wouldn't. It would probably be an attack on their right because they're going to be attacking this unit here. But of course, that's me planning for, like, this is me fighting the last turn. Like, obviously it's going to take me the whole turn to get there. And it's entirely possible that they're actually going to turn their attention towards the Sleipnir. So then the next question would be, well, what kind of cover do I have against an enemy that actually has an advantage at long range from me? Because the Sleipnir is also a long range enemy. The more sensible place for me to move would be somewhere around here, because then I get to take advantage of the terrain, but notice that I'm not really in a position to be able to fight. So I'd also have to spend part of the turn moving in on the enemy. So I may still want to look at the right-hand side, but there's some defects to that, just in terms of what kinds of options it gives me. So let's consider the alternative. Now there's a body here, and I have a really bad habit of tripping over bodies. I'm going to trust the game doesn't show me a little explosion saying that I'm tripping over it. I do mildly prefer moving to the left. Now if, I don't know, some emergency happened and I needed to escape, this does bring me closer to it. The other thing that I like about it is there's multiple points of cover, and I've got a few other places that I can run. So more importantly, it doesn't take as much effort for the Sleipnir to sort of move in and involve itself in the turn. So depending on what happens next turn, we may be in a better position to sort of respond to what the AI does. So we'll watch the turn happen. I will watch with interest. Okay, so it shoved it out of the way, but it didn't cause any problems. So this is a great example of what happens when you commit yourself to an attack at the start of the turn. I know this is coming, so I can prepare. We've got the shield up for the duration of the attack. So what I just get to do here is I get to sort of follow behind with a big grin on my face. And then as soon as my shield goes down, we get a nice rear shot on the, on the unit as it moves away. Okay, and it looks like they're focused on the... It looks like they're focused on the Sleipnir in this case. So in this case, shot to the back, move forward, and then where I can take advantage of another shot. In reality, this is just going to take out the left-hand side. That's not necessarily what I would like, but I kind of have to live with it just because, you know, there's not much else going on. So I think I'm going to have to use the sidearm in this case just because they're too close. So I can fire... Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's do... Yeah, so what I'm trying to do here is get the Sleipnir involved, but don't put them at risk of taking damage. So fire on the enemy, start firing. There's a small chance we get, we sort of get pinged by one of the attacks. Oh yeah, it's a little more than I was expecting. Okay, and it lost its right arm, so it's probably still going to fight us because of its sidearm. But that was a very good turn for us. Again, a little damage on the Sleipnir, so I'm not able to go without repairing it. But I think I'm going to be able to live with that. So we'll move out of our cover. In this case, the Sleipnir is more the playmaker on this round. Again, we only get 2 attacks with the assault rifle. So this time I'll stay put. Now, what's helpful here, because I know... So there's 2 things that I want to consider when it comes to the Sleipnir. Number 1, I want to position it in such a way that it's going to have an effective attack against the enemy. The other thing I want to do is make sure that I'm positioning it in such a way that we're prepared for the next turn. So in this case here, we stay put, we fire, that's all well and good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move back here. There's 2 chief advantages to an attack that happens on this angle. So number 1, notice that I'm not really sweeping the gun all that much. There's like a little bit of drift from left to right, but for the most part, we've got a pretty straight shot on them. Excuse me. More importantly, though, the question is what happens next turn? So if they turn around and decide to use their sidearm on me, well, I have some options in terms of how I can run. So for instance, they're already using half of their attack at the start of their next turn. So if I know they're going to attack the Sleipnir, I might just be able to run them back in this area here if the angles don't work. I don't think this will provide me much defense. It kind of didn't back when it was the enemy shotgunner that was doing this, but just an example of something that that I might be able to do in reply. It's a sidearm, so it doesn't have that long of a range. In this case, it's 18 to 36. So my range for my weapon, 35 to 54. If I go to 54, we don't need to fear that much from the weapon. So my other option is just to sort of move back. Also, there's the alternative of this little bit of cover, which again, from here, they're definitely not going to be able to hit. So going from this position here, there's a few different places I can move with my more fast-moving unit, which will give me some options. So one of the things that I like about games like Phantom Brigade is that you don't, I've noticed a couple of times in this game, maybe on some later missions with more units, I've actually had some cases where the AI sort of successfully laid a trap for me, or I've sort of started to phone in the tactics a little bit, and the game has sort of punished me for doing that. I sort of wind up feeling like I sort of see that there's no good options left for me, that somebody's going to wind up taking damage no matter what. I think that's, number one, I think that's really neat. It's always nice when you play a game and it, I don't know, it successfully bamboozles you, I guess, for lack of a better term. But, okay, just want to see if there's a... Basically, just want to see if there's a shotgun move for me to make here. Not really, I don't move fast enough, so... Keep the shield up. What I am going to do, though, is I'll just move back a little bit so that it blunts the effect of the sidearm even more. So then that gives me the chance to So when I drop the shield... But yeah, so one of the things I think Into the Breach does this, XCOM does this, Phantom Brigade does this. Definitely the games that really stand out to me in this genre are definitely ones where you sort of feel like you are rewarded for thinking a little more long term. So if you just lurch from turn to turn, you can do well, but you can excel. You can either get more scrap or you can minimize the damage that you take. You know, there's a few different things you can optimize for. And it's really rewarding when you play a game that sort of rewards you for some really good tactical thinking. I mean, again, it's one of these LOL, this game is for smart people kinds of effects, I suppose. Okay, so in this case, you know, we don't need to worry that much about the okay, so in that case, we definitely lost out on a chance of scrap there. They lost their left arm, so they were going to eject no matter what. But we, you know, I'm not that good at anticipating the kind of damage that I'm going to be doing, so you know, I usually just kind of blow it all up. So we've got 150 more resources. We're definitely going to be able to build another mech. We've actually got a full... All right, so I suspect this is the game saying, hey, you're going to be able to build a new member of the team. So we've got 110 scrap. Again, that's because we destroyed everything, but I don't believe we would have won if we had not done that. So as a starting position... Okay, yeah. That's not happening. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. This shotgun and shield. So these are new. So it looks like this arm is different. This is 161 versus 142. So this is definitely an upgrade. I should probably try and go for at least one full body. Okay, we're already over. Honestly, you know what? I don't need to get that fancy. We'll just take the scrap. Actually, it occurred to me... So it says that's worth 25. Okay, so yeah, I can slightly adjust. So that should be a little bit better for my my scrap. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about like taking the remaining parts. I think I'm probably a little overweight on Elbrus parts, to be honest, but I don't think it'll hurt to have bits for a future mech. Province liberated. Thanks to your efforts, the enemy was driven out of the contested province. Resistance forces will hold it from here on out. So I was talking about how the new update brought in sort of the revolution. That doesn't seem to happen in the tutorial province, but almost certainly it will happen in the next one. Now, again, if I'm completely honest, I'd like to finish in 6 minutes, but I know that's not a full 3-hour cast, so we'll try maybe at least one more battle, but I don't think we're going to get to a full like liberation under the new system until we get to the... Like, I don't think we're going to get there until next week. But we'll see. Workshop. You've gained enough supplies to build a new mech frame. You can build them in the workshop that is located on the mobile base. Consider always having some spare mech frames and pilots on standby in case you don't have time to repair or lose mechs during combat. Complete victory. The invaders have slunk away with their tails between their legs, thanks to your decisive and bold maneuvers. Multiple messages come in from different officers in the home army, grateful for your contributions. The radios are also jammed with messages of celebration that fly from town to town in the area, all happy to contribute to kicking the last of the invaders from these lands. A pilot approaches you, while others are distracted by the celebrations going on outside the base. Can we celebrate, boss? Just for tonight. I think we've earned it. So we can give the pilots the night off and some booze to blow off steam. So this would sacrifice 100 supplies. Normally, I really like doing this. I can't really afford to do that here because that's gonna deny us a mech. And frankly, I think pilots would prefer to not die rather than have booze. So we will join the parade. You can't spare an entire night off, but a few hours will suffice, and that will reduce the fatigue by 50. So I think that's a reasonable compromise. We're also going to get some repairs, which is nice. Although I think we can just go to the workshop and build that mech frame. So one thing I was kind of thinking is if you're doing like the parade and the liberation, whether or not this would be the sort of thing that should re-equip your repair gel. I'm of like two minds of it. I don't really feel strongly one way or the other about it, but I do have a feeling that repair gel is going to be one of those things that I feel like it limits me, and I think that's specifically why that's there. Enemy territory. Since your homeland fell, the invaders have built military bases and reinforced all settlements and facilities. You've defeated enough enemies to liberate this province, but as you get closer to the capital and the invaders' borders, the enemies will become more challenging and battles more brutal. Invaders may counterattack. Proceeding with caution is advised. It's best to find more equipment before taking on the well-defended locations. You should try and find an enemy patrol to ambush, defeating them and salvaging more advanced gear. Contesting a province, so this is that new mechanic we were talking about. Entering a hostile province will start to increase escalations. Increased escalation will cause enemies to become tougher and more numerous. When escalation reaches level 1, the province can be contested. Contesting a province will lead to the designation of some locations as objectives and battle sites. Battle outcomes in those locations will determine who has the higher presence in the province. When invaders or the home army loses all presence in the province returns to a peaceful state with the victor retaining control of the province. Although presumably, if the Phantom Brigade is a success, we are not retaining, but obtaining. Okay, so this is a broken down army convoy. This seems like an easy thing to attack. We'll go into stealth. So that does mean that we won't be building the mech frame, unfortunately, but... And now we charge him. Broken down convoy. We've intercepted a distress call from a nearby enemy convoy carrying valuable supplies. They are broken down and awaiting repairs, vulnerable to attack. Suit up. I'm curious why it's allowing me to add a third unit when I don't actually have one. Maybe this is just a tutorial thing? Anyways, looks like there's no reinforcements. There's two in the middle here. This is a site that we need to capture. So raid, ambush an enemy convoy, take as much cargo as possible, and retreat before potential reinforcements arrive. Can be accomplished with 1 or 2 mechs. It's a workout with objectives and enemies spread out on this map. Bring your fastest mechs. Sometimes bowing out is better than blowing up. Deployed mechs can retreat after fulfilling their objective, and we've got your back. The base will approach the combat throughout the battle, so you can retreat if you need to. We're fighting the army, and they're level 2, a generic branch of the military that carries all sorts of military-grade equipment. They are not specialized, but cover a lot of bases with their use of mixed squads of tanks and mechs. And they're already here. Enemies are ready to immediately engage, so keep your wits about you. This is basically going to be like some of the fights that we've had before, 2-on-2. I don't have anything to add, although we are missing a torso. I don't think it's a report. There's a report a screenshot thing, but maybe I'll just take a screenshot for myself. Hey, Crack Steve. I'm doing okay. I've got a bunch of stuff I need to do tonight, which is, I'll admit, is causing me a little bit of stress. But I'm really happy to play Phantom Brigade. This is the experimental branch, so I haven't really noticed anything where I'm like, oh my god, this is brand new. But we are also trying, like I haven't even done the new liberation mechanic yet. So, which is not exclusive to the experimental branch by any means. So it's a nice chance to go back to first principles on Phantom Brigade. Command rebel units just entered visual range. I'm outnumbered, requesting rapid response team ASAP. Now, it doesn't seem like there are any reinforcements coming. Your Phantom Brigade's good? I know Phantom Brigade's good, but I haven't tried the new liberate. Or sorry, was there a different thing you were talking about? Sorry, I'm apparently out to lunch. Okay, this seems like a pretty straightforward little engagement. So I definitely want to make sure that my Sleipnir is off. Is there a way I can get them to the left? Looks like there is. So the reason why I want to attack from this other angle is because that's going to allow me to take out their weapon. So rather than attacking them on the shield side. So this is, remember how the game was telling us, right? Where you attack is going to affect, like it's going to affect outcomes. So in this particular case here, putting so much of a priority on the right-hand side of this mech is going to allow me to potentially get it out of the fight even faster. You've watched a new show. Which two have you watched? I know you were asking me about What If, and then I always kept forgetting what If was. So I've not seen that, but I'm always interested in hearing what you've been checking out. So what's the latest? What's the latest that you've been treating yourself to? Wow, this doesn't leave me a lot of options for protection, or sorry, for response. I'm still going to try and go for it, but there's kind of a specific order in which this is going to happen. Oof. So what I want to do is I want to be as far out from the range of this enemy unit as I can. So I'm going to keep my shield up. But what I want to do is basically when I'm ready to actually attack, I sort of want to be on the same side where this, where my Sleipnir is attacking, so that we can really focus on its right-hand weapon. So kind of notice the logic of this, right? So we stay put, and we're doing this because we are well outside of the range. So as we start moving, we get closer to the danger zone. Now this is going to mean that we take more damage on our shield, but this is a trade-off where I'm doing this so that when the time comes for me to finish with the attack, we open up and we're attacking from a better position. You watched Vox Machina, an Amazon Prime animated adaptation of Critical Role's first campaign, and Infinity Train from Cartoon Network. I'm definitely interested in Infinity Train. So I have never watched Critical Role, and I've absolutely no issue with the idea of a role-playing campaign being turned into a show. In fact, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard a rumor that Baldur's Gate was actually based off of a D&D campaign that some people at BioWare had run. And again, I don't know if that's true for sure. Sorry, I'm taking a look at the details. It's got little adjustments on the... Mind you, there's like the chip that's the exact same for the the white line, but nice little detail. But yeah, I just think it's one of these ones where, if it's a role-playing campaign, they're telling a story a particular way. So I'm sure I could enjoy it on its own. But yeah, you can tell me about both. But I'd love to hear about Infinity Train, because I've not heard of either of those. Okay, let's see how this turns out. All right, we didn't do any damage on that second one. So let's just take a look at how... So it actually looks like we wound up doing far more damage to the lower body. We didn't do anything to the right arm. Interesting. Now, the autocannon's going to have its way, so I need to get out of there. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of good options that I have for dealing with that autocannon, but it is the only action that it's taking. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to try a bit of an unusual strategy in this case, and I'm going to effectively ignore the tank. I'm going to put all my effort into taking out the shotgunner. I'm just trying to think if there's a better way for me to... I guess there really isn't a better way for me to manage the attack. So how much damage does this thing do on its own? 337. My shield has got 550. So yeah, we'll be paying for it in terms of damage. But we'll get in close. Let them have their fun. I'm going to move back a little bit just so I can get an optimal... And that's a shield, so I don't need to worry about response. So I'll stay put for the second shotgun shot, and then we'll start moving. Okay, so we'll see whether or not that turns out. Yeah, so a little bit of damage on the Sleipnir, but nothing catastrophic. Cool. So we don't need to worry about this unit anymore. I do need to worry about the autocannon though. So sadly, I just don't see a good option here. So I probably should have thought a little more carefully about where the tank was ending. This is a great example of me not following what I talked about before in terms of making sure that you're in a good place at the end of the turn. I was focusing a little bit too much. I mean, so it paid off, right? We managed to take out the most threatening of the units, but I did so in a way that left my Sleipnir vulnerable. So I guess I'll move behind the hill for a little bit. Actually, what I might do is just the grand old Duke of York strategy. No, they want to attack partway through. So I'm curious if I can... Okay, so we're both going to be hitting the side of the hill that way. Hey, Night Valiant, how you doing? Anyway, the series is set on a seemingly endless train traveling through a barren landscape. The cars of the train contain a variety of bizarre and fantastical environments. The passengers on the train are the people it picks up who have unresolved emotional issues or trauma. Everyone gets a number on their hands, and the numbers are going down. It's fun in the first season because you don't know what the number hitting 0 means. Each season follows a different character, with only Season 4 having main characters not at all connected to Season 1's story. It also has 11 to 12-minute episodes and 10 episodes a season. That's really interesting. I actually think short form is something of a lost art. So, like, one thing that's nice about television, and obviously this is kind of standard for TV now, but it was not always so. You know, where effectively some of the best television has effectively sort of realized that it is a very good format for telling longer stories, but in the serial format, right? So like kind of once upon a time, Charles Dickens would be releasing installments in the newspaper, and of course now we just have the series that we watch. And I think that's good. Like it's resulted in a bunch of television that has been very high quality and we can enjoy. And I think it's a very good use of the format, but it's not the only one. So like you can think of like Black Mirror or Twilight Zone, which was an inspiration for Black Mirror. I haven't seen recent Black Mirror, by the way. I know some people kind of like to make fun of it now, but I watched it when I think it was Channel 4 that it was on. When it was a Channel 4 thing, not a Netflix thing. I really thought they were very strong stories. And of course, those were self-contained, right? That was an old style of television where you didn't necessarily have to have everything have a direct connection with, each episode or whatever. But even then, like that's a half hour long episode. And I generally like the fact that there are more kind of sophisticated stories being told in a series. But it's also coming at a time when movies are getting longer. So, I don't know if... I kind of feel like Lord of the Rings was the one to really push this, because if you notice, like the movies keep getting longer and longer, and it's probably increasingly more difficult to tell someone like Peter Jackson, you got to rein in the runtime on this. And then you've got like extended editions. And then I think his next movie after that was like King Kong, where I think like the sequence on the island, I haven't actually seen it, but like from what I'm told, the sequence on the island is the runtime of the original King Kong movie. And the thing is that like there are some stories which really do merit a very long form telling. That used to be a really big event, right? You would have like a Lawrence of Arabia or like a Patton or Spartacus, and like this would be a big tentpole event that you were locking in for a big epic experience, but it was, material and presentation that sort of merited that event. And like, it's funny, like it's anachronistic to put it this way, because obviously there's decades of development that have led to this. But to a certain extent, the way that we do runtimes now is the way that like we treat the word. I don't think anybody really says epic anymore, but like for the longest time where everything became epic. And to a certain extent, you can kind of make that statement about movies. Everything is epic. Everything has to be 3 hours long. Everything needs to have this incredibly elaborate backstory or, set up this massive franchise or something along those lines. And you can compare some of the older movies, not all of the older movies. Like there are some older movies that don't necessarily use their time well, but like you can think of a movie like Network, which has sort of like 3 major plot lines. It's one where actually I think people sort of struggle to say who the main character of Network is. I've talked with people who are like screenwriters who will argue over who the main character of Network is. But it's able to develop all of those stories, and it's able to bring them to a satisfying conclusion within 2 hours. And I think most movies now struggle to do that even in 2.5 hours. And I think one of the drawbacks is that where, something of that runtime would sort of mean that it was sort of an event and it was something that sort of merited that level of attention. It just kind of feels exhausting now. I admit I haven't actually watched that many movies that are that length, precisely because I just don't really feel like I have the time, or I don't necessarily think it's a good use of my time. And it's a shame because I really do enjoy movies. But it's neat to sort of see, the problem is that when you think about movies being really long and TV series now being a vehicle to tell these multi-hour long stories. I mean, obviously Netflix's whole thing is to sort of promote binge watching. So effectively, you're not watching series as series, you're sort of watching them as these 10-hour epics. It's really neat to see sort of this short form material being given an opportunity, because I think this is what what do they call it? it was this really famous. Sorry, I'm actually gonna look this up because I'm curious. It was canceled? No. Kibi, the short form streaming service, which I think had this I think it was like a 6-month long, very expensive effort to create a new platform. I think it was and it had some big names. I think Jeffrey Katzenberg was a name associated with it. I know Meg Whitman was one. Yeah, actually, I just took a look at. I just found the Wikipedia page. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently, the premise behind it was just basically that people wanted to watch short form stuff, and then they would only do it on mobile and all of that. And so it was an effort to kind of create a platform built around watching very short videos, which in one sense, again, I like the idea. Another example would be Love, Death, and Robots, which I like as an idea. I just think it kind of feels sometimes like the priorities are that of a teenager. It really does feel like there's always got to be the scene for there's always got to find this opportunity for it's really out of place, very gratuitous nudity or sex inside of it, even the violence to a certain extent. And I tend to find it distracting, which is a shame, because I actually think a lot of the science fiction shorts that they choose to show on it are very good. But I think that's an example of a series where they're not necessarily they don't feel beholden to deliver an hour-long episode each time, or that they're more interested in telling short form. I admit I didn't actually finish watching the first season of it, but I liked the idea. The implementation sometimes sort of fell apart. The best example is I read the short story Beyond the Aquila Reach, which I thought was a really interesting episode in Love, Death, and Robots. And there is a sex scene in that which I think is something like a fifth of the runtime. And in the book, that scene happens in the book, but it's literally a sentence. And so it just kind of, I realize I kind of sound like a big Puritan saying this sort of stuff, and I think the Puritans got a bad rap anyway. So, but I think it's a really good example of how I think sometimes the priorities for that series can be a little screwed up. And I know they're trying to recapture the heavy metal journal or magazine or whatever it was, but yeah, it seems very some of the creative choices just feel very immature, which is a shame because it's really top-notch animation, and again, there are some really interesting stories that are being told, and so it just those moments really strike me as something that pulls me out of the story more than anything. And I think that's a shame, just because it's otherwise such an engaging series. I'm sorry to spend so much time talking about movie stuff. Against my better judgment, I'm going to try one more battle, and then I think I need to get on top of the work that I want to do. So let's do the. And again, I apologize if I'm unfair in terms of stating the length, but it does. It definitely feels like there is a disproportionate amount of attention to that one sentence in that book, and it actually that comes at the expense of a much more. I don't really want to talk that much about what happens in that episode because it's hard not to make sense of it. So it's hard to make it make sense and not give away what it's about, basically. But there are quite a few more interactions about between those two characters that are basically left out of the story, presumably to make space for that scene. And it left me actually. So I'm happy that the series exists, because I probably wouldn't have read that short story otherwise. But it does mean that it does mean that it means like I was really interested in something, and then I read it and I'm like, okay, well, the book is so much better. And what a shame that they decided to go that way with the show. I don't know. Anyways, cool. I don't think I'm going to be able to, yeah. So we can scrap it. This one is 20. This one is 25. So we'll scrap the heavy arm. And we do need to... Oh, interesting. So I've definitely got some repairs that I need to do, and then I need to equip the new... the new frame that I built. So it's kind of interesting that the game is telling me to attack this base at 120 threat when I've only got 50. I mean, I guess I'm not obligated to do it right away. I definitely would have said the reinforced camp was more appropriate for me first. Bases serve as key strongholds, and eliminating them will help the liberation efforts in other provinces, but they're difficult to overtake without proper preparation, so consider capturing other locations in the area to build up strength, or even taking on easier targets in the Fearland province before approaching the base. Interesting. Okay. I never thought about trying to raid Fearland, but... By the way, we're in Ostbeger Weil. Denizens of this province are affectionately nicknamed beatniks, thanks to the enormous amount of sugar beets growing in the region. Very clever. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out, Crack Steve. I mean, it's always a question. I don't really have any consistent subscription to something other than Apple TV Plus. But I have friends occasionally will watch stuff. As someone who introduced me to Gravity Falls, they really like Gravity Falls. I was delighted. I like finding, as you can tell from the conversations I have with you, like I like hearing what people are interested in, because it gives me a chance to find out about stuff. And partly I'm out of touch with TV, one, because there's so much of it, but two, I'm really trying to read more. So there's only so much time, excuse me, I have to pay attention to all this. So, but I definitely, as you can also tell from my rants, I could definitely learn, I could learn some economy in terms of an economy of words. It takes me too long to talk about stuff. So if I watch other people tell stories in effective ways, in short forms, then hopefully that will just make me better at my own delivery. You're able to finish the show in a little under 2 hours. Also, if you like Gravity Falls, you recommend Amphibia. Cool. Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't have gone out of my way to look for Gravity Falls on its own, but it's one of these things. If it's something special to someone, you want to check it out. And I was pleasantly surprised by it. I haven't seen that much. I mean, I was saving it up to be able to watch it with them, but people get busy, so. It looks like these units have been transporting heavy armor sets. They have more integrity than medium armor sets, but they are heavier, which means that they dissipate less heat and make your mech slower. Building a loadout that plays to the strengths of such armor can give you a formidable unit. So I do want to keep this... Yeah, thank you, Crack Steve. This is one of the challenges, right? So, like, to a certain extent, I would love to be, a gigantic streamer that everybody, pays attention to, and it's great. And particularly back when I was getting a little bit more of a regular cadence of Paradox stuff, there were definitely times when I was playing something early, and there would be like hundreds of people watching the channel. It's obviously been a long time since we've seen that, but I do know that every once in a while I'd usually keep on topic with the game, but because I tend to play games like this, and Paradox games at a more deliberate pace, if I want to be, if I want to be diplomatic in terms of the phrasing. There'd definitely be a lot of, just play the game, you're going too slow, blah, blah, blah. And it's important to take some of that on board, because the worst thing that happens is that it's not that people tell you what's not working for them, it's that they go away and you never know, right? It is sometimes very hard to be conscious of your failings, either as an entertainer or as a, in terms of your work, like if you're doing analysis, if you're writing, or, anything that you do, like, it's not pleasant to confront your shortcomings, but it's very necessary to do that. And so being able to get that feedback, it's better if it's presented in a constructive way, but it's, that's not necessarily the worst thing that can happen to you, let's say. But the challenge is that I also know that if I completely change the style to appeal to the people who are only going to show up when I have, I'm one of the fewer people who has access to something ahead of time, those people are not necessarily going to be sticking around after it becomes available to everyone. They're just going to go back to their usual haunts, or they're going to be playing it on their own. And so it's a challenge, which is that some people like to hear the digressions, and I want to make sure that I don't completely abandon that. But I also want to try and make sure that in the end, either we return back to the topic at hand, which in this case would be Phantom Brigade, or we talk about how it relates to it. Now, obviously, it's hard to do a line from like Gravity Falls to Phantom Brigade. Like that's a like, I'm just gonna have to accept that that's maybe me letting off some steam. But I don't know, like I get, like, most people tend to like to lurk, and it's basically kind of like a podcast with a video game in the background sometimes. So I sort of recognize that. And one way I can grow as a creator is maybe to be a little bit better at going on, like, retaining what's interesting about those tangents, but also make sure that there's either a little more progress inside the game, or that it kind of ties more to the game. So one thing I could talk about, for instance, would be the way that this game tells its story, right? We got to do the tutorial. We got to see this introduction of this sort of pregnant woman talking to the child that will be born, talking about the kind of world that she wants for the child, and how it doesn't feel like that's going to be the world that the child is born in. And the Phantom Brigade comes out of nowhere. And if you think about the mechanics, right, you get hope to a certain level, and that emboldens the population to take back their provinces. Some of the research that I did in university was on insurgencies. And, insurgency is something that's been studied for a really long time. I think probably one of the first sort of formal write-ups on it is, I think it was a Frenchman named David Galula, who was talking about the Algeria, which was a French colony. And there's been this very long idea of insurgencies essentially only being able to survive with the sort of support of the populace. And that intellectual tradition sort of will go all the way up to more modern things that we've seen. So this would be like David Petraeus and his famous coin manual, and sort of the idea of the surge in Iraq, and sort of this idea of, where you have sort of a much better armed and a larger force in, a country like Vietnam. In the case of the Americans, sort of better equipped, ready to fight, but in the end, not having the support of the population. And so essentially being able to just sort of be bogged down. Because again, with the support of the population, you have people who are able to sort of maneuver through the environment. And so, even if you are able to bring about terrible destruction on the enemy, they still have the will to fight. I mean, I'm sure as far as the Vietnamese were concerned, this was just simply a continuation of a fight that they had been having with the French for even longer. And you know, in the end, that was not something that the you know, that the Americans were able to sustain. So, you know, again, there is a reasonable question as to whether or not any of this stuff is any good, right? Like, just because the army writes a manual about it, or just because some guy wrote about this back when France was trying to hold on to its colonial possessions, you know, this doesn't necessarily make it true, but this is at least the way that some people who obviously have quite a bit at stake in terms of getting this question right have thought about this. And there is something, you know, interesting, at least as far as a storytelling point of view, right? Like, there aren't cutscenes for every single time we liberate a province. And yet there is something very interesting about this idea of, you know, the rumors of the, you know, the phantoms are going through. If you take actions, you know, so the more virtuous actions that you do inside of Phantom Brigade, right, you build the hope, you are there to help people. The more selfish actions that you take will at the very least not reward you with hope, and sometimes they will drag them back. And in the end, I suspect this is because the population is feeling to a certain extent that they are living in a new reality, that the world that they once knew is no more. And if the so-called liberators are essentially behaving just like the occupiers, you know, you're not necessarily going to be as motivated to, you know, support someone who's basically just trying to, you know, to be the new person, you know, who's the overlord, let's say. And so again, what's kind of neat, I don't know how explicit this game wants to be in terms of sort of modern scholarship on insurgency. I'd certainly not consider myself an expert on this at all, but I've at least sort of touched on it in other things that I've studied. But being able to sort of weave those ideas, you have one good cinematic at the start, which sort of sets those themes, and all the subsequent choices that you make in this game, in terms of the, you know, the dialogue boxes, the choices that you make, where you decide to go, what opportunities are presented once you get your hope up to a certain level, all of these things, I think, get sort of fed by that one cinematic. So this is my effort to try and redirect things on. But that's an example about where I can kind of go on a rant on something. I mean, I've actually hit the 3-hour mark, but I did say I was going to do one more battle, so we'll go ahead there. But that's an opportunity for me to kind of go on a rant that I at least think is mildly interesting. But in that case, it's still attached to what the game is. Anyways, I am in future, I'm going to try and play to the strengths of the, I guess we could crew. I kind of messed this up a little bit. Oh, I think we get a chance to build up our new body. Gear up. At your order, the base flies into action and prepares for a fight. An engineer sprints down the bay to check on the guns, passing a scout relaying combat data through the radio. There's shouting everywhere. At your side, someone's leg bounces up and down, boot heel tapping on the grate. You feel eyes on you, waiting your command. Okay, so let's add Kilo. Absolute unit. Okay. So I could try and go for the heavy right away. Or I go for the more generic. Let's start with something a little more generic for starter. Actually, before I do that, we're going to give some hand-me-down. We're going to worry about some hand-me-downs first. So upper body. Yeah, so this level 2 doesn't work for me because of the heat dissipation on it. That's a bit of a... Oh, no, sorry. It seems like the dissipation's better on that. That's weird, because it looks like that dissipation modifier is lowering it? Oh, it's because it's got a heat core. Yeah, so this is still not necessarily a very good torso. Okay. Lower body. I don't necessarily want the heavies here. This has slightly better... slightly better heat dissipation, but at the cost of heavier mass, so I don't want to work with that. Left arms. Now this is definitely encouraging here. So we're giving up an Elbrus in exchange for a Nox with better integrity. Right arm. Actually, it would make sense. Sorry. Let's put that Elbrus back on. That should be the right arm. So the reason for that is just I don't want to lose the right hand weapon. Okay, not going to give it shields, and I think we're pretty good with the existing. Yeah, we're good with the existing rifle. And we don't have any specialized equipment yet, so I don't need to worry about the. I don't need to worry about. Well, actually, that's not entirely true. Oh no, yep, no, I can't replace the cores or anything, so that's fine. I suspect there's not as much for me to change with the lance, but we will just double check. So yeah, I'm gonna need to make some sacrifices if I want to bring any of these other ones on. The biggest thing right now is just the extra mass. So, like I said, I want to maybe try and work more towards the strengths of a heavy loadout rather than just build it for the sake of building it. There's a small argument for putting this lower integrity Nox arm on the left arm because that's already protected by the shield, but I don't think it's giving me enough heat dissipation to really warrant the change. And these are both very small shields, so we're not going to work with those. Okay, so on paper this is a better shotgun. Okay, so with all of that in mind, we can now properly evaluate, we can properly evaluate the different torsos. So actually, one thing I'm going to do here, so we've got an Elbrus upper. This is kind of our, I'd say, a reasonable candidate for a standard torso, right? It's got a standard core. It's got, all of the basic. This should be like my baseline. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a second to compare the Nox uppers to this standard one. So for instance, we've got a higher barrier. I normally want to consider that but it's got a launch core. Okay, so this is a standard core, but the dissipation is lower. Okay, well that's still, I think that'll still be informative. So yeah, we gain in integrity, we lose in mass. And we lose in heat dissipation. Okay, interesting. So I suppose the lesson that we really get out of that is that yes, you can use heavies as big tanks, but you need to make sure that you're not. You either need to compensate for their lack of heat dissipation, or you need to make sure that they're using low heat weapons, which I guess to me would be we just equip them with. Sort of long-range weapons. So maybe we give it the Aspera rifles. I'll think about it. For now, let's just go for standard legs. So these Noxes have penalty, so we won't worry about those. Unless these Elbrus arms are the same. So again, we're not touching any of the heavies. At this point, it's a question of color. This is the left arm, so... Okay. So if I want to have a little bit of everything on this, I probably want to equip it with a shield. And then my options here are shotguns or assault rifles. So let's just take a second here and see if we can come up with some kind of a comparison. So let's say, for the sake of argument, I wanted to focus on something that I could use at long range. And then at that point I would say, okay, so maybe we'll accept that this can be a heavier... So we'll do long range and we'll make it a heavy mech, so it doesn't necessarily need to be that mobile. So the Astra, good stats in terms of damage, 105 on heat generation. If I compare that to the shotguns, the Shred is actually my lowest heat generator. Mind you, that's because of the modifier. And of course the drawback here is that it's a close range weapon, so I would probably want to have a little bit more as far as speed goes. So I'm going to put the Astra on this first. I just want to see, so we'd be at 13... Yeah, so we'd be at 13 speed with the current configuration. I want to see how that compares to the Sleipnir, 16.5. And then we compare that to the Lance, which isn't necessarily a heavy mech. That's a 12. So now what we're going to do is we're going to see what happens if I convert this into a heavy. Really good heat dissipation on this one. Mind you, the active heat sink's going to be a big drain on power, I think. Yep. Oh, so there's like nothing I can do to get rid of it. Okay, interesting. That might sink me in terms of being able to... So I actually speed up if I bring the heavier arm in. That's a little crazy. Yeah, so that would definitely be my slowest mech out of all of them. But knowing that defect, I think what I am going to do is I'm going to try and just let this stand and just constantly spray. I want to try this one and see if we can just constantly spray misery on the oops on the bad guys here. Oops. Okay. We've got reinforcements, but nothing too scary on the field here, so... So with the introduction of repair gel, one of the things that I feel to a certain extent that this is... I feel like this has created an incentive to play the game the way that I normally do, which is to actually have a very mobile team which avoids getting hit. I feel like bringing in a really like tough group of people who just sort of shoulder away the like the damage that comes in on them. I feel like you're just going to have more delays to your liberation because you're going to have to be refilling your repair gel as you do that. Whereas if you dodge the damage altogether, sure, some of it's going to come through, some of it's going to damage your units, but overall, because you're taking less, mostly just because you can only take less, otherwise you die, you wind up in a situation where I don't know. Like I just kind of feel like the incentive in the game is to avoid damage more than sort of face it on, I guess. So again, I don't know if that's an intended side effect or quite what's going on there. I'm gonna just open fire on the. So part of the idea of this build, right, is to see whether or not I can just kind of keep firing away. Obviously, you don't go heavy armor if you intend to, if you intend to do a lot of heat generation, but I don't know. We'll work what we've got with this autocannon. The good news is everybody's piling in on this well-armored unit, so that's going to mean that my slower units can sort of get into position, and my lighter units can, I don't know, do their fancy speedy thing. Case in point. Okay, so my preference would be to actually stop and fire, but it seems like the game doesn't want to let me do that, so I'm mostly doing this just so I can sneak around the back. Doesn't look like there's any turrets here. I guess we could see that through the tabs. So the last thing I need to do is try and get the big guy in. Oh, looks like we've got enough. Okay, I'm kind of doubtful that this is actually going to work, but I want to see it nonetheless. Okay, so let's see what the consequences are. All right, so they're gonna focus on my guy. That's completely fair. The good news is that looks like I can just keep firing this all day, and there's really no consequence. It also looks like everybody's ignoring the old target, and we're in the world where we want to focus on this guy. So I want to try and get in the early attack. So this is going to be the primary source of damage on this target. So this tank is getting a little more attention than it would normally merit. But the idea is going to be that I clear that out early, and it's going to remove whatever threat exists to one of my more important units. So I'm making something of an assumption here, right? That this is gonna be done. I mean, maybe I just want to be more gentle and not. Yeah, you know what? I'll move closer, but I'm not gonna charge into the tank, and yeah, we'll leave this be. But I do have a very clear idea of what I want to do. In this case, I want to get whatever sort of rear attacks I can on, or as close to rear attacks as I can on this enemy unit. Cool. I definitely did not pay attention to the fact that this was a machine gunner. So little torso damage that I wasn't expecting on this unit, but overall we're in a pretty good spot. So this unit's going to be limping for a bit. Now I have a rare opportunity here. Actually, no, it's not quite the same that I thought it was going to be. I'm trying to think of how I might be able to weaken this unit without killing it. I do 190 damage, so this will almost certainly take it out. Well, here's what I'll do. I'll move this unit back. I think we're just going to have to hope that that the attacks don't go too crazy. Okay, cool. Actually, that took out more of the right-hand side, so I might have just set ourselves up for a world of pain. Alright, it wants a secondary attack. Fair enough. I admire its courage, but that is a pain to try and... So, same story as before, basically. Alright, well, I deserve that. This is me kind of being greedy as far as trying to get the scrap and all that. But I mean, there is a reason we have all this stuff trained on the enemy unit. Oh wow, I really blew that. I definitely could have done more damage. This is getting a little ridiculous at this point. Okay, so they're going to be focusing on the unit with the assault rifle. Surely at this point it will eject. Thank goodness. Okay, two new enemy contacts on the field. So yeah, a ton of unnecessary damage there, but it's mostly just so I can try and recover as much as I can in terms of scrap. Okay, so one tank, one mech. This guy unfortunately is heading the wrong way, so we'll try and make a welcoming party. Well, that's an inconvenient location for the rest of my team. So Sleipnir's probably going to have to run. Yeah. Everybody's focused on them, and it's an autocannon as well. So this is a no-brainer. This is just a question of running to the side of a building. The one bit of good news out of this is that I do get some rear armor attacks. Or theoretically will it? Yeah, that's actually hitting the shield, but I'll learn to make do. So normally I'd like to take out the tank just because that's a source of potential damage just being completely eliminated there, but in this case, I'm happy to make the exception. Okay, so almost took out the right arm. That's actually really good news for us. They're turning around to focus on me, which is good news for the Sleipnir. Maybe not so good news for my repair gel, but we have ways of working through that. Okay. So this unit basically just keeps hammering away as long as it can. Oof. All right. And then the Sleipnir is going to do its usual Sleipnir thing. So I'll start with an attack on the tank just because that's the target of opportunity. And then this should be a good hit on the right-hand side. So hopefully we can take that thing out of the fight. Okay, so I'm going to just stay put here for as long as they're shooting at me. Which apparently is forever. Yeah, that doesn't work for me then. So yes, I will in fact keep my shield up forever. There we go. So... No, stop! Stop! The beautiful scrap! Okay, so tank's gonna focus on the Sleipnir. Sleipnir will focus on the tank first. So basically I want to stay put for the attack and then zip away before they actually do the job. We'll move the shotgunner where it needs to be. And presumably... Okay, so it looks like they're crashing, but we should be able to sort through the rest of it. So the one bit of good news out of this is that we do have the machine gun. So that's going to be something that I'll probably equip on the heavy. So, yes. Yes. Actually, we've got lots available to us. So these are all level 2 parts. So let's start by taking the easy scrap. Got room for 20, so I think anything... Yeah, basically I get to scrap 2. So 15, 25, 10, 30. Okay. So that'll maximize my scrap. And we gain some escalation. Okay, so definitely we've got some repairs to do. I'm not really sure how I feel about how that battle went. I mean, we got the scrap that we were looking for, which is nice. But I'm not entirely sure. Like I've because repair gel is a new. It is called repair gel, right? Repair resource. Because this is something that, like, this is new. It's not something that I've been able to really play with all that much. I've certainly not run out of it. I don't yet have a good mental model for what the trade-off is, right? So am I willing to give up half of my repair resources if that means that I'm able to take an enemy unit intact? I don't know. I'll actually say in general, like, so in some games, like I like thinking of BattleTech just because it's the framing I'm most familiar with. Those games definitely have a very heavy scrap component. So, like, if you're thinking of Mech Warrior, generally, I think the usual assumption is that you're some kind of mercenary company who is like getting paid not just in credits, C-bills, but also getting paid in terms of sort of scrap from the battlefield. Like the negotiations are as much about what you are able to loot as they are what you're able to, what you're directly going to get paid by your employer. And that's specifically modeled in the Harebrained Schemes game, as well as Mech Warrior 5. I haven't played the earlier ones, but I guess I played Mech Warrior 2 at some point. It's like it was one that basically was a bunch of polygons running around the screen. Like the thing about, and I guess in that one you're playing the clan, so I don't know if there's the same like business about scrap because the clans seem to just be more high tech. But like in the case of mech games, like scrap is it's a part of it. And so in the case of a game like BattleTech, like you've got a whole bunch of actions that you can take, such as, okay, I'm going to choose to shoot the legs out of this mech because it means that I'm able to, like the really expensive stuff is still intact, so I just need to repair the legs and I get to keep this really cool mech that I want. Or like, I'm actually going to try and do a targeted shot to the head. Or, I'm going to take other actions that basically will kill the pilot because, you just hose off the cockpit and you're like ready to go with an awesome mech. So, that sort of stuff isn't really present in Phantom Brigade, it feels like. Like, I like the fact that you have sort of this location-based damage system, and that you're able to say, it's like, okay, I want to try and take out the legs, so I'm going to attack it from behind. I think the one challenge, though, is that taking out the legs of the mech isn't necessarily quite the same thing that it is in other games. What I mean by that is there have definitely been times where I want to take out the legs of a mech because it will mean that the mech crashes and it will save my ally from taking damage. But I don't necessarily want to take out the legs of a mech because it means that I'm going to get access to a bunch of cool new tech. Because it doesn't, it's actually like, weirdly enough, shots from behind, which are normally extremely powerful in these types of games, maybe don't quite have the same sort of power, with the exception of the concussive damage. But again, it's actually quite rare for me to take out a pilot with concussive damage. It doesn't quite feel that the shots from behind have quite the same power that they would in other games in this style. And by the way, that's not necessarily a failing of Phantom Brigade, but what I have found is that it sort of feels like, from a couple of the dialogue options, that the game is encouraging me to think about how I might be able to get certain bits of scrap. But given my experience of like really trying to create a sense of hopelessness on the part of the occupying forces, like you can see, it took me about 2 or 3 turns of like trying to be really careful on, not doing too much damage on the unit. And of course that just translated into me taking a bunch of unnecessary damage for what was ultimately a foregone conclusion. And I'm not 100% sure how to do it any other way. But this does translate, like, where you notice, like, I tend to have like a lot of overkill kills. That's largely because I've never quite been able to find a very good way of sort of moderating the damage that I will wind up doing. It sort of feels like most of the time I highly prioritize taking out an enemy unit, particularly when I'm running with a light squad. And I just I've never quite been able to crack the code of making an enemy eject when I know I'm going to be winning the encounter, but I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be winning it with as much scrap. Anyways, I'm half an hour over. I'm actually feeling a little scared in terms of how much I need to get through tonight now. I don't know if I'm just going to have a really late night, or I need to just really think about how I'm going to prioritize things, but I definitely need to wrap up for tonight. I mean, again, I think it is a bit of a testament to Phantom Brigade that it is a game that I will definitely enjoy continuing to play, even when I have very strong incentives to do otherwise. But I think now is a good time to wrap it up. Particularly if any of you are still around from the hosts that we got, or the raid, thank you for giving me a chance to entertain you for tonight. I didn't, so I should take a second here to put the credits up. Yeah, I don't, how'd I put it? Yeah, sorry, I totally blanked. I'll just shut up and say thank you, everybody, for watching. I'm going to be back on Friday. I will very likely be streaming Hand of Fate 2. I very much enjoyed Bone Sweeper, so for those of you that would like to see more Bone Sweeper, I'm happy to share that. But I kind of think we saw everything that there was to see with Bone Sweeper, and I figure that probably we can just save it for the full release to catch the next one. But anyways, we'll probably do Hand of Fate 2 on Friday. Friday is technically a free day for me right now, but I have been really enjoying Hand of Fate 2, so I think it's nice to be able to do a little bit more of that. For those of you who are all about the Phantom Brigade, that will almost certainly be back a week from now. And then for those of you who like Stellaris, we may be on the final Stellaris episode next Monday, because we got clobbered by the Unbidden. And if they're able to take a few worlds off me, there's just no way that we're going to be able to get our army back to where it needs to be, or our navy back to where it needs to be, I guess. And if you enjoyed what you're looking at and you're not following already, I would love it if you do the follow, but I've actually noticed the majority of follows seem to be coming off of the YouTube channel lately, so I'm content to take them where they come through. I never want to sound too needy on it, but obviously it's nice to be able to grow. It's nice to be able to continue supporting stuff. So my usual priority is going to be to see if there's a Phantom Brigade stream. Looks like there isn't, so let's see if there is an Industries of Titan stream. Nobody's streaming Industries of Titan, so IntelliGame is streaming Trigon Space Story, so I will do a quick shout out for IntelliGame, just because I do like his stuff. But I'm actually going to host Valiant Cheese tonight, who is developing Bonesweeper, which we were just talking about. So Valiant Cheese is definitely an interesting guy. He's very supportive of aspiring game developers, and I know a number of you have been talking about wanting to get into game development. So I think he's a good guy to watch because people seem to enjoy his games. He's got quite a bit of game development experience. He worked with not Telltale. Day of the Tentacle people. Double Fine. So he did some work with them on, I think, Massive Chalice, Day of the Tentacle, and Full Throttle. But he's largely... And he also worked on Hand of Fate. I believe he worked on both Hand of Fate and Hand of Fate 2. But at the very least, he's worked with Defiant, which I found out did more than Hand of Fate. I've only ever known them for Hand of Fate. But in addition to just having a lot of experience and sort of doing his own thing now, he uses tools that are free and open source. So he's using Blender, he's using Godot. He encourages people to keep, to develop using those tools. He's definitely about lowering barriers to do game development. And so I think, especially for those of you who want to get into game development, I think he's a good resource to draw on. To be able to see these tools in work, making games that people enjoy. So I hope you all enjoy Cheese's stream. If I don't see you before then, see you Friday for Hand of Fate, Monday for Stellaris, and Wednesday for Phantom Brigade. Please take care.